now, so a lot of people are trying to get their registrations to get their voters cards, and we hear about disruptions by unknown gunmen. So unknown gunmen,
however you wish to define it.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But
so I mean, I'm glad that your processes were seamless. Mine was quite tedious, I must admit. So first of all, even finding the location where I was meant to register. I went to the first place where they said, oh, go there, that's where they're doing it. And we got there, they said, no, it's not here, go somewhere. So I think I went through about 3 different local government offices before I found the right place.
Really?
And then got there and found a huge queue of people hanging around. Okay, so what's
going on?
Nobody seemed to be able to give any direction. So I'm trying to access a gate to say, can I get help? And then as I walk through the gate, somebody's yelling at me and pointing at the wall. Apparently the instructions were stuck to the wall. But then if you have no reference point or context, the what was written on the wall was like gibberish to me, made no sense. So there was nobody to sort of say to me, okay, you need to do this, you need to do that. So it took the making a few phone calls to find somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody to send somebody
direct.
Exactly. And then said, oh no, don't go to this place. So we have somebody so just another place down the road, why don't you go there? And that's so it was a very, if I wasn't determined, right,
you would just give up.
I actually see so many people just giving up and going back home, which is also very discouraging.
It is. And I mean, even the collection process for us was then made easier because of this person. But really and truly, it was a frustrating process.
In fact, now that you said it, I remember that initially, the local government where I picked mine wasn't the initial local government. It was a tedious process initially until I was given information that I should try XYZ, and then I went there, and that was where the process was a lot more seamless.
It was easier. It was just the waiting, but it was straightforward.
But I mean, this truly should be a simple process. Why does this have to be so tedious in today's digital age, where you're collecting the same bits of information? I mean, let's not go into the databases of data that the government already collects, but should this really be a tedious process? But I mean, let's get into the conversation and get Akin to join us. So Akin Braithwaite is an expert in growing corporate revenue through creating and leading high-performance customer service teams. He has extensive experience in strategic implementation of customer relationship management environment frameworks and systems. He is an innovative transformational leader with vast contact center management experience in rapid growth markets. He wears many hats, one of which is a politician, and that's why he's joining us today. Thank you so much for being with us, Akin. How are you doing today?
Thank you. Thanks for having me join the conversation.
We've been looking forward to having
Easter.
Yes, happy Easter. We should actually say happy Easter to our viewers as well. But thank you. I hope you had a good Easter. I hope it was restful, if nothing else.
And it's a good way of crowning it off by being here today.
Absolutely.
Thank you, ladies.
So I think I'd like to start off with your experience in obtaining your PVC. What was your experience like?
I would describe it as smooth. I voted in as many elections as I can remember since I got back into Nigeria. And I'd like to say that INEC has really impressed me. They've been trying really hard, given all the difficulties of this country. Each election cycle, I think they're getting better and better and better. And some people don't want them to succeed. You know, I might add.
There is that too.
But despite all that, I must say that they have achieved quite a lot that I really would want to give them kudos. So my own personal experience has been okay. I've been able to get my PVC, vote different elections, and even my election voting has been more like a picnic each time that I've gone out to vote. So that's probably because of where
you're
I've been voting
as well. Absolutely. But I mean, I like that we are starting off on a positive note. Now, before you joined us, we were talking about the different issues that impact the entire PVC process. We talked about knowledge and we talked about trust. I'd like to hear your thoughts on what you think are the key challenges that are standing between Nigerians today and acquiring their PVCs.
Okay, so let's take trust. My lawyer friend here knows that when you want to enter in a contract with anybody, it's not based on trust, you know, because otherwise what's the need of having a contract? So I don't think we necessarily need to trust, you know, the system. It's better to come at it from a position of, I don't trust. But the important thing is that it's your right, and on the other hand, it's also your responsibility. It's a civic responsibility to vote. It's a foundational aspect of democracy. You can't talk about democracy without voting. I mean, during the military era, there's no talk about voting. You obey the maximum, leader, and he gets whatever it is that he wants, But we're now living in a democracy, even if it's what some people call civil rule, or rule by civilians. But all the same, it's still a democracy that allows you and me to exercise our rights, our fundamental rights. Now, in America, even as we speak today, which is kind of like one of the oldest democracies, there's still voter suppression going on, So it's not even as if people go out there and, it's a privilege that they're still fighting for the rights to vote. On the other hand, the irony here in Nigeria is that we don't have to fight to get the right to vote. They're even begging us, oh, please come and register and all that. In America, they're putting up all sorts of obstacles in the way of some folks, to prevent them from being able to vote. So I think we should embrace the opportunity. We should look at it in terms of, yep, okay, I don't trust these guys. I don't need to trust them, but I'm going to go ahead and get my PVC, whatever it is going to get me through that, into that ballot box and really exercise my vote. Now, whatever it is that I meet along the way, people will have different experiences. So some people will have it easy and some people will have it hard. Whatever your experience is, I'd say, just make sure that you are adamant about getting whatever your right is. And you will eventually get it. Whatever it takes, just make sure that you do get that, card. Now, there's a role that you as a citizen play. There's a role that the INEC, authority plays. They can't do it all by themselves. So I think that if you look at the trouble that they've gone through, they've, I think, had to really face up to the reality that they are a major gateway, to how this society is going to run. And I can't really fault them too badly in what they've done so far. So let's encourage them. And let's do everything that we can to make it happen. Now, what has prevented people in the past? One of it is violence. The whole idea of trying to, get people to scare people away from voting. The other is the often used term apathy. A lot of people feel, what's the point? And then the issue around apathy is also one of, which candidate am I voting for? I don't even have a viable candidate to vote for. But assuming like one of you decided to run, or all of you decided to run, then we're giving people the opportunity to now have candidates. What we've done so far is that we've allowed the major parties to sort of say, oh, no, this is a person, that's all the choice you have. But it doesn't have to be like that, We can say, no, this is not the choice that we're going for. Let's even look at what other parties, have to offer. And if you don't even like what other parties have to offer, you can also suggest what other parties should be. It's your country. It's your right. It's your. You have every. Yes, we're not living in a monarchy.
Yeah.
This is a republic. So we all together have a right to deal with and get ourselves to change the government. A vote is a right to change status quo. A vote is a right to say, no, I don't want this person, I want that person, and I cast my vote.
Okay. Can I ask a question?
Okay.
I mean, I hear what you say, but to a large extent, we have a lot of ignorant Nigerians who do not even know how powerful they can be with their votes. So whose responsibility is it to be able to enlighten and educate the people on how they can use their power in their votes to be able to make those decisions? Because I don't see INEC doing it.
It's your responsibility.
It's the citizens' responsibility.
Yes, it's your responsibility. You
but
have
a lot of them do not know.
You have an influence over a lot of people. And therefore, it is if you and I begin to take our responsibilities seriously, all those around you that are within your sphere of influence, you have a responsibility to them. How many people have you told this morning, and educated about, look, you must, do whatever is your duty to do? So we have to break it down to the people. I bet you that you can influence 50 people.
True.
Within your sphere of influence, you can influence 50.
Well, what about the system?
The system, don't worry about the system. The system is you and me.
Okay.
The system is the political parties who probably aren't doing what they should be doing.
Okay, so I guess that's what she's trying to say. So there's someone that's supposed to do it. So even if we know that we have our own responsibilities as citizens to also try to enlighten the general public, but whose responsibility, whose first responsibility is it? Is it the government?
Okay, if you talk to the average person in America or Britain, you ask them, tell you, I'm a Republican.
How did they get there?
It took a system to get them
through the
schools,
yes,
through education.
Thank you.
So all of this, so the
system
system has to start from somewhere to be able to give
So your constitution has allowed you to set up political parties. Okay.
Yeah.
The job of a political party is citizen education, is to flag where the government is going wrong, is to push for bills and things like that and get the government moving, is to take citizens, really where they need to go. When they're out of governance, when they're in governance, then of course they need to. But out of governance, there's a lot of work that, and people should sign up and join because that's how you begin the conversation. There's a role for the media.
Absolutely.
In these other countries, media take positions.
Absolutely.
You know where CNN stands. You know where, what's it called?
Yeah.
What's the other
Fox.
one? Fox. You know where Fox stands.
Yeah,
and all that kind of stuff. So are they sort of non-partisan? No. So they take a position and they take a position based on interest. The other thing too is that, you see, people, if you look at NSARS, why did it become so successful, in terms of the outing before it was broken up? Because it was an issue-based gathering. So if you find issues that affect people, of course they're going to, okay, look, how can I deal with this issue? Which is part of now influencing those that are around you. That, look, this issue is very, very germane. There's an issue recently that's really doing the rounds, and that's in Lekki, the Lekki Bridge. That's an issue, right? And it's really got people's backs up. So the question now is, okay, so how do we plug into this? What do we do to stop, this tolling and what have you?
Okay, let's hold off on that point. We need to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. If you're just tuned in, we're discussing 2023 elections, the PVC drive, and INEC with Akin Braithwaite. So we still love to hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp on 0818-038-4663. Tweet at us at PlusTvAfrica1 with the hashtag WasteShow. So Manny, you had a question.
Yeah. Okay, so before we went on break, we were talking about whose responsibility, it is to sensitize the public. So now for the people that know their rights, they know that this is their responsibility and they actually want to participate in everything. Now these people want to do their registration and collect their cards, and we see what's going on now. I just think that the issue in Imo State with the unknown gunmen will cause a lot of discouragement in people registering and collecting. So how do you think that the INEC can actually make this process easier? Like she talks about digitization and how it's supposed to help us to make this process easier. So what's your suggestion? How can collection be made easier, or even registration?
Okay, so you don't want people to collect physically, do their own collection?
Yeah, but if they're going to be threatening people with guns, they even killed one person and 2 of the INEC staff are missing as we speak. Yeah. So how do I won't go collecting my cards right now if I had to collect my card, if they're going to be unknown gunmen showing up. So how can the INEC make this process easier?
Okay, so let's take a couple of steps back. I think INEC again is doing what they should do and what they can do. They're not in charge of, they're not in charge of security, right?
Yes.
Okay. So somebody's failing in their own duty. And so we need to pinpoint where the failure is. The security agencies should get up and be up and doing, and they need to do their work. It's important to be able to go there physically because it's something you don't collect by proxy, all right? Now, there is an effort that has to be made, So maybe there could be postal, whatever you call it, but we don't even have the postal system up and running at the moment. So maybe in another 10 years' time, that can be sorted out, all right? But we're where we are right now. So we have to take where we are and say, okay, let's deal with it. I would say to you, don't be frightened by what the gunmen and so forth are doing. There have been countries where there's been civil war and all those kind of things, and people have had to just go and vote, if you recall the Abba women's rebellion, as they say. Yeah, some people say it's a rebellion. It was a rebellion.
It was a riot.
And they were not deterred. They decided that we're going to get the change here, and we're going to do it. And over 50 women lost their lives.
What?
Yes, over 50 women, thousands of women were involved. And it went on for months. Okay, it went on for months. So I encourage you women by the time you women get engaged in the process, these gunmen they'll back away to the shadows. The other thing is that, as Nigerians, we need to start standing up for our rights, okay? Civil rights America, a lot of people got killed, all right? They couldn't even have the rights as a human being, and just because of the color of their skin, they would be mugged and hanged and what have you. But they stood up for their rights. We have to stand up against these gunmen. We have to tell them, look, gunmen, you're going to lose this particular game because this is our right. We're not going to let you stop us from exercising what is our right. And the police need to go after them. What the people need to do is to say, find those who did that.
Yeah.
Okay? And not let up. Find the people who did this. Crime prevention too is absolutely important. And you see, I truly believe that we have to take things back to the local government and to the ward. These guys come from a particular local area, ward, and whatever.
They can actually fish
the neighborhoods need to come alive.
Yes.
Okay, because this is an existential threat. What right do they have to say, why, if you don't believe in this, so we need to tell the security agencies, not let up on them. Because you see, when people don't speak out, that's why you have the expansion of Boko Haram and all that.
Yes.
Because people just say, oh, well, it's just some bandits or
but
just
people
some
have been speaking out.
Yeah, so
and what has happened?
You never stop.
We need to
Do you know how long it took the
pushing.
civil rights? It took them more than 40 years.
Yeah.
to get.
They spoke up. They lost their family. They lost children.
It is what it is.
We have to sacrifice. We have to make this sacrifice.
And that's what we have to realize, that if we want to have the change that we want to see, we need sacrifice.
At some point, the gunman's wife or sister or whatever is going to call him and say, look, old boy, you got to stop this.
Yeah.
You see, so it's soft power, it's hard power.
But
we've got to get into the psyche of those that are trying to stop us from moving forward.
Yeah.
Those guys have relatives, don't they? They have people who know who they are.
Relatives are abroad.
And
there is
well, not all of them. You know, I was speaking to my classmates. I was telling them, I said, the truth is we complain a lot here, which we have every right to complain. But at the end of the day, Nigeria is just 60 years old.
Well, you know? So it's
the United States is 200, is almost 200.
Yeah, but it's a relativity
years old,
issue about whether we're going in the right direction
or not.
So it's the regression, I think, that is the key problem. Because if you really think about where we started from and where we are now, it truly feels like we are regressing.
So I think we're still
that's
in
where
the
challenge is. So even if you want to say that we're young, you want to see some growth. But I think that for me, if we come back to this conversation of the voters' cards and we come back to elections now. Without the voters' card, you can't participate.
No,
exactly.
So we all agree that this is such a powerful tool. But there was something that you mentioned earlier on when you were speaking about the quality of the candidacy. Now, how does that in itself impact? Because I know I should have my PVC before the election, right? But then there's the concept of primaries and all of that. Does that also impact this conversation? Does it impact the PVC?
Absolutely. So in my party, the ADC, one of the most important things that we've set ourselves is a task of encouraging people who have the right pedigree, to step forward, tapping them on the shoulder and say, look, listen, it's actually your responsibility. You have the competence, you have what it takes. Don't let the people down. Nigeria needs you, all right? What's been happening up to now is that we've just accepted to vote for whoever has been presented. So we say, okay, let's take the worst of or the best of the worst. But what we really need to do is to say, hey, look, like they say, if you want to send your child to school, you look for the best teacher. If you want to repair your car, you look for the best guy who can fix it. If you want to fix the electrics in your house, you look for the best guy who can do that. So why, in terms of governance, are you accepting anything? So we need to get away from the anything goes type of approach, and we need to look for. I mean, I would be surprised if you told me that you don't have friends, family members who are competent and who you should be tapping on the shoulder and saying, you have got to run.
Yeah.
You have got to run.
Yeah, I think we do that all the time.
You do?
Oh, of course.
You haven't sent anybody my way.
But someone is coming your way. The person is coming your way. So, for me, I would like to ask this question. Do you think that the PVC has helped to reduce election rigging? Do you think so?
Yeah, there's a transition. I mean, if you look back, have you voted in the previous elections?
I have.
Okay. So you'll see that from the era of just them sitting down somewhere and just writing results to the point where people were snatching ballots. So there's been this gradual progression. Now they brought out a new device, which is called the automated biometric
another voter accreditation.
That's right, system. So that's going to now take your facial. It takes a picture of your face, facial recognition, and then your fingerprint. So that is, you can see that they keep trying to improve, all right, and they're showing us that they are making the effort. So it's now up to the citizen, to say, look, I'm keying into this, and we're going to really make this thing work. We're going to make it happen. We have to make it happen because they're doing all this for us, okay? They might as well, they could have decided to just keep things, the way they are. So real kudos to the INEC team. We're rooting for you guys, if you're listening. Keep doing what you're doing, keep improving, keep moving things forward.
Awesome. Manny, I think you have a message before we take your question. Nama.
Nama? Okay. Okay, awesome. So, good evening, my dear beautiful sisters of What Are You Saying? #ways, and happy Easter to you all. Considering voting, let us make it a point of duty to obtain our PVC. It is very important. Our PVC is our tool, so is our vote. 2023 is by the corner, and it is no longer far. Also, our vote is a holy thing and should not be given to the dogs. The people in government now are dogs because they are the wrong people. Let us not make that mistake again because it is deadly and suicidal. My heart bleeds after hearing that a teacher molests 50 pupils in 4 months. Are the government not supposed to look into educational system in Nigeria? At this rate, the educational system does not mean anything to them. This country has to sit up and live to their responsibilities. Sister Uti, you're welcome back, looking beautiful as ever. We missed you. My name is Daniel E.
You can almost tell. Thank you so much, Daniel. Yeah. Thank you so much. So you were going to ask the question.
I was going to ask the question about the voters' registration that are invalid, that have been proven to be invalid now. How does this affect the elections, where you have a lot of registrations being invalid? Is there a process that helps people to be able to correct that before the election so that they have that opportunity, or is it just a dead end? Okay, it has happened, so there's nothing we can do till the next 4 years, then we can start looking into it.
No, that's why the chairman did conduct that press conference to let people know. So there's still, the process goes on till June, all right? So we still have some time to do whatever. And he's advised, he says, look, this is the issue. There are 2 categories of people here who should be registering, going through this process. The first category are the people who are turned 18 and suddenly they've now got the majority. That they have the right to vote. So this is their opportunity, right? All these years they've not had the opportunity. They've turned 18, now they can go ahead and register. Those are new registrations. Then you have those that have registered before, but now have, so one is that they want to change their, absolutely. PVC so it's saying that if you want to do a new registration, then you've got to fall within that category who's never registered before, okay? Then but some people have gone ahead and done the new registration thing rather than just correcting an existing registration. So I think a lot of it is, I think a lot of it is error, is genuine, innocent error. Although he says that some people have deliberately done that to try and game the system.
But does it invalidate both?
It invalidates the new registration that you're trying to do if you're going to.
Old one is still valid.
I'm certain that you can go back and now do it properly. So if you've registered before but you've lost your card, then you just go to the system. You've already, in order to register, you create an account, okay, online, and then you go through that account and then say, okay, now it's no. So you select the right category of what you want to do, want to have done. Then there are those who aren't doing it online who would go to the office there. Some of the staff too obviously didn't know what they were doing. So otherwise they would have guided people properly. But I think the reason why he's letting us know, they were doing it in 4 phases. So this is the last phase, the 4th phase of it. Okay. So people have enough time to
So we're still asking the same
themselves.
question. Do these people now that have to correct their registration, do they have to do so in person?
Are you one of them?
No. I'm all right.
You should be able to do it online again because you can just go onto the online thing
that makes it
and
easier.
then select the proper section that you need to go through.
Okay. That's good.
So if you had done it, I guess the last question for me would be, if you hadn't started the process itself online, if you had done it before at a physical location, are you able to still leverage the digital option?
I would believe so, yes.
Because they're both
they're integrated. Okay. So, in fact, if you've registered before and you put something about your details, and you go to, oh, I want to change my location or thing.
You should be able to
It will just bring up,
information.
stuff about you. So it's a computerized process. I mean, I'm so impressed, really, to be honest with you, with what these guys have achieved.
Way.
Yeah, this is e-governance now.
Yeah.
You know, in flow.
Well, I like the fact that you actually mentioned e-governance. I think that would be our last question because we've actually run out of time. What are your thoughts on digitizing the entire process? So there's a lot of conversation around e-voting, and the fact that, you know, if we take this one step further from having the cards and having biometrics, what are your thoughts around that space?
Okay, so there was a time when you had to go to a bank to do your banking, all right? And I think about the most sensitive thing, one of the most sensitive things about your life is your money. Today we have banks that are branchless, all right? So everything is being done through the digital processes, okay? Now, I can't remember when last I went physically to my bank.
To the bank.
So our lives are changing. So whether the government, you know, is slow or whatever, that's the direction that we're headed. So if you look at what INEC has been able to achieve so far, there is, like, if you look at South Korea, guys, those guys have just taken this thing to the very, very next level. Now, Nigeria is also, amongst nations in the world, is noted for what is happening in fintech, and it's achieving things that even other parts. So I'm extremely confident that looking at what's going on now, I'm extremely confident.
It's a good direction to go.
Yeah, the guys in INEC, I think that they must be made up of some young minds.
So we're headed in the right direction.
That's where we're going.
Yes. Okay, I think that's a fantastic way to wrap up the conversation, because I think the world everything is digital now, so that's where we really should be looking to go. So thank you so much for joining us, Akin. I learned a thing or two today, so it was really nice to have you here. For our viewers, before we go, do ensure that you follow us on Instagram at PlusTvAfrica. You can interact with us further, drop a comment, and most importantly, follow all our social media engagements. Remember to like, share, and comment. Invite your friends and family to watch and follow us. So if you missed today's quote, here it is again. Whenever we do voter registration, we ask, why haven't you voted before? The response is often, no one asked us. It's not about telling people what to do, it's about sharing what they can do. And that's by Rosario Dawson. So we look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 8 p.m. as we bring another great conversation to your screens. Have a good evening. Bye.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408, or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
And on the breakfast, Chrisland School Lagos breaks silence over sex scandal which forced government to shut all its branches. We will look at the parenting and some perspective on child's upbringing. These things. Also on the breakfast, what's the trust role in stemming the tide of domestic violence in the country? We seek answers from a clergyman. And as always, we'll review the biggest stories making the headlines on the front pages of our national dailies. Good morning and welcome to The Breakfast. I am Messi Bopo. And it's good to know that you're back at work and the holiday's over. Let's get back to business. Now, and as always, we'll start off with a top trending conversation. This morning, we'll be looking at on the front burner of top trending, generating conversations, and especially for football lovers and the fans of Cristiano Ronaldo. Cristiano Ronaldo announced the death of his newborn, and as of last October, he had announced that they were expecting a twin. Unfortunately, one of the babies died, and it's a boy. But that has also gotten a lot of football lovers across the entire world, and especially fans of Ronaldo, sending condolence messages and reaching out to him, including his club. I mean, you have the likes of Man United also putting out that message and standing with him at this particular time. It's a hard time for them. A hard time for him as well, and also Real Madrid as well, putting out that message. Really a hard time, death. But it's okay. We'll also send our love and condolences as well, to Cristiano Ronaldo. Another issue on top trending. This happens with a Nigerian sharing her experience in Tanzania, Zanzibar, to be very precise. So a certain young, the story is really lengthy, if you ask me. It's a lengthy one, but a Nigerian who decided to visit Zanzibar, and of course you know that that's a tourist destination. You have a lot of people who trooping, on year basis, visiting, and just going because of all that they could get. But there's been several reviews as regards Tanzania, right? And so she actually talked about the fact that she was going to be turning 23, and she decided to go on a vacation and taking that holiday to celebrate herself when she turns 23, all the way from, Lagos, Nigeria. She got in there. It was really beautiful. And then she met some friends. But as time went on, it was time for her, after all of the wishes. You know how the birthdays can actually be. After all of the goodwill messages that actually would come from family, friends, and the new friends that she had met, she, according to her story, she went to bed, she slept, and unfortunately, she woke up in the middle of the night. According to her report, she found that there was someone touching some sensitive part of her body, private part of her body, and she probably thought she was in dreamland, but only for her to wake up to the reality that there was really someone, in her room. And according to Zainab, who said that, of course, her hotel room was locked, she turned off the light. She can't really explain and doesn't really understand how all of that happened. And so the story went on from her thinking what would have happened if the young man was going to strangle her. She couldn't even tell. Just imagine yourself in that situation. But the young man, or the man himself, wasn't speaking English, and so Swahili, and then the only card she could play was the HIV card. Maybe, the guy understood what HIV was. She kept on pressing the HIV story until the person, or the accused here, or suspect, decided to take a leave and go get some safe measures so he can actually come back. These are all, one would actually begin to imagine what would you do if you were in such a situation. But according to Zainab, she decided to, get out of the room, even if she was going to be killed or whatever was going to happen. She decided to go meet some Russian couple that she had met, and getting to there, she got some kind of refuge. However, the issue was taken to the police, and she reported that. For me, it's the fact that she was very, if you read the story, it's really lengthy, so I'm here just trying to summarize her thoughts. And issue was reported to the police. Now the police in Tanzania, in Zanzibar, According to her, she suspected that the security men were also involved in this situation, because at some point she saw the security men before she ran to the Russian couple that she had met during the day. But she couldn't. Her instinct thought that they could also be part of the plot. And then she moved on to getting to the room. She got some refuge and safety until the case was reported. But she also explained that the way the situation was handled wasn't very professional and wasn't very pleasing, as the hotel didn't really pay attention to everything. Now, long and short of the story is the fact that it's reported that the security guard is a suspect, or was a suspect, in the case. But she said it felt like, religion, whatever it was, they had to stand with their own. She didn't really understand, but she captured moments and she captured everything. But let's see if we can, take you through the statement from the hotel, and that has also gotten a lot of people, not necessarily Nigerians, reacting to all of that. Now, the hotel decided to put out a statement recently. It's a popular hotel in Zanzibar where a lot of people would always patronize, especially if you're a tourist. And according to this hotel, they've gotten like 4,000 negative reviews, and that's really not good for business. But I'm really going to take you through this part of the comments that was being made by the management of the hotel. He says it is also true, because the hotel had to acknowledge the fact that, yes, there was a certain, tourist who visited, the country, and of course was a guest in their hotel, and all of that was also acknowledged. They also acknowledged the fact that she reported a case of sexual assault or rape, attempted rape at the time. And there, as an organization or management, decided to report the case. But this is what's getting a lot of people, not just Nigerians, reacting. And I'm sure the reviews would continue for this particular hotel in Zanzibar. It is also true that she reported to our management that a male security personnel who is not our employee was posted at our hotel by a security company and went to her room and attempted to have sexual intercourse with her. So people are reacting. I mean, this has gotten a lot of reaction, and not just Nigerians right here, but you have people from different parts. And some people have corroborated the story, saying, hey, it's very, very horrible. We're dealing with a lot. 90%, 95% of what she said is really true, because it's really crazy here for us in Tanzania. But I would think that we need to do better. Now, so in the content of this post that's been put out, the hotel is also being held accountable for this kind of statement, which they think is not good. How do you say that the security personnel that was that's in your hotel was just posted to work in your hotel? So even if you have a company that's hired, a security company that you contracted to provide services for you, it therefore means that they work for you. And so it just shows that the hotel itself is not even acting very responsible, refusing to take responsibility for the actions. I mean, if there was a confession that was made by this suspect, the hotel itself has refused to take responsibility. And also another issue is the issue of attempted to have sexual intercourse with her. That's gotten Nigerians and a lot of people, Africans, also talking about the fact that we're talking about a case of attempted rape here. And now you're saying sexual. So it portrays that Zainab was willing to have she conceded to whatever advances it was. So it's not an issue of rape right here. It makes nonsense of all of the issues. And just to bring you up to speed with the fact that Zainab is saying that she decided to take, seek help, probably has gone to rehab. You can only imagine what has happened to this young lady. You can never understand it until you are in this kind of situation. But it brings us back to the fact that with all of this that has happened, people say it is Africa. Africa will always be Africa. The story that you experienced from that Zainab has narrated, how the police treated her, and to how some persons have actually reacted to it. It just shows that it might just be a continental issue. Let's not even talking about it being a global issue. The issue of rape, first of all, how people would always accuse the victim all the time of a story, and how a lot of people would downplay, the story of the victim and not also listening. Now, one thing that stands out for Zainab is the fact that she was very detailed about every report. She put out every receipt from the conversation to everything that she did. And we're only praying that, no one experienced this. But it boils down to the fact that as a people, as organization, we need to do better. We also need to constantly do better as a continent. We cannot constantly, we cannot just allow, some certain culture take the front seat. For instance, the issue of rape and, sexual assault always thrives in the culture of silence. And so silence would always be it. You would always have people wanting to conceal all of this, or all of the experiences that have gone through. But it's a plus for Zainab that she has been able to come out and speak out about her experience. And it is really bad business, for that hotel in Tanzania. We hope to do better. We also hope that everyone also learns that if you're in business, you're not just in business to make the money, but you should also look out for, your clients, the consumers, your customers. That's most important, especially, for a tourist nation. Now, another thing also that several persons have talked about is the fact that we as a country need to do better. You will be tripped at the number of tourist destinations that we do have. How far have the Nigerian government paid attention to, our tourist sites and destinations that we have? Tourism. How far have we fed with it? How far have we developed and paid attention to it? But away from that, because we have other issues that are top trending, and this one is really sad. I feel like a lot has actually happened for us as a country, during this Easter period. So let's even go back to the genesis of it. The genesis of it is that, during this period you have, including my organization, put out all of the wishes, happy Easter celebration, his reason and all of that. So I will mention, because it's already in the public domain. So Sterling Bank decided to put out a post to commemorate and celebrate and also be part of the Easter celebration, where everyone is celebrating. Christians, not just in Nigeria, across the entire world are celebrating. And so the post went like agege bread, he rose. Happy Easter. And that got to a lot of people. You can imagine the reaction. People have reacted and said that this is horrible. As much as you're trying to be very creative, this is really horrible. So yes, following all of this complaint, then you have a response from the Advertising Practitioners Council of Nigeria. And they decided to intervene in this particular issue. And here's the letter. Sterling Bank Agege Bread Easter advertisement. Some people are saying it might just be another shenanigans. How far do we go with all of this? What will, APCON do with this particular case? How much sanction would Sterling Bank get for all of this? Now, so the letter from APCON reads that the Advertising Practitioner Council of Nigeria has observed with displeasure the insensitive and provocative Easter celebration advertisement by Sterling Bank PLC, which compared the resurrection of Jesus Christ with agege bread. The tasteful advertisement was neither submitted to approved exposure by the Advertising Standards Panel, the statutory panel charged with the responsibility of ensuring that advertisement conform with the prevailing laws of the Federation, as well as the Code of Ethics of Advertising in Nigeria. And so the Advertising Practitioners Council will take necessary actions to ensure that Sterling Bank's sanction is sanctioned for the exposure of such offensive advertisement according to law, and that no religion, belief, or faith ridiculed or any blasphemous advertisement exposed in any guise. This is a statement that's been put out following the fact that people have been very displeased. I've seen several comments where people say we are going to withdraw. I have like 6 accounts with this bank. I'm going to shut it all out. Some persons are saying, I was going to open an account, but I'm going to take it out. So a lot of people have been offended by this post. What meant to be good turned out to be very bad. In street partners, we will say very good don't become very bad. Very fortunate. But the moral of all of this is that we need to be very sensitive as a people. I say that, and we cannot overemphasize the fact that we need to be very sensitive. We need to pay attention. The issue of religion is a very sensitive thing, whether you have Christians, whether you have Muslims, whether you have Buddhism, whatever it is. We need to be very careful. And for a country as Nigeria, you understand that what further divides us is the issue of religion, is the issue of culture. But the respect is what we need to understand, that we cannot, as trying to stay woke in the street panels again. The word is to stay woke. The word is to catch up with the trend. Everything is not a joke. Just like people would always make nonsense of, the issue of rape and those who are going through some kind of issues, especially rape cases, domestic violence, and all of that. I mean, it's really, really sad. So it feels like constantly we're already drifting and we're losing it. Where our values, we just want to make a joke out of anything. We understand that we try to survive, we're happy people, but you also need to understand that there are a lot of people that might be offended by your actions. And so let's be more cautious as a people, let's be more cautious as an organization. Now, quickly, there's also another one. This is very interesting, away from the bad, not necessarily bad, but not very exciting story. It's the one that there's a video that's making the rounds. It talks about a teacher that has gone viral over motivational skills. I'm sure that we're able to run that particular video right there. It just brings us back to the fact that education, as we're evolving, we also need to find ways and means where we evolve as well. It should not be stereotype. Teaching, skills of teaching, skills of, lecturing. We can also devise means where we can get the attention of the people. Let's not forget the attention span of a human being is always limited. You find out that people get easily distracted, people get less interested in no time. So what would get people more interested? Kudos to the teacher and for what the teacher has done. We also encourage that we become more creative in a positive sense, and creative in the sense that we get a lot of people get through. And that's it for Top Trending. We'll take a break right now. When we return, it'll be time for us to go through the pages of our national dailies.
Ebenezer Primary 5 pupils. What if you fail while trying? I will try again. What if you get tired? I will keep on trying. What if all hope seems lost? I will keep pushing. What if it is tougher than you think? I will be optimistic. What if you are discouraged? I will be more focused. What if it is a high mountain? I will climb it without my strength. What if there are obstacles? I will break them all. What about your trials? Success is not an individual trial. What about your background? My background does not determine who I can grow up to be. What is the most important thing? My passion to succeed. What if there are no helpers? I will look up to God. Why? Because at the end of the tunnel, there lies the light, and at the top of the mountain, there awaits my success. I am special. I am special. I am special. Look at me. You will see. Someone very special. Someone very special because it's me. Because it's me. Okay. Alright. Alright, okay. Okay, alright. Ebenezer Primary 5 pupils.
Life can be fun and rewarding, but it also comes with some risk. As in business, you win some, you lose some. And that's why you need to be wise in the choices you make. It's like placing a bet. Again, you need to be wise. Wise in choosing an innovative platform with the highest market options and highest odds ever. That's why Winners Golden Bet, the leader in online, in-shop, virtual, and live sports betting, gives you enhanced platforms that offer you the best chances of winning. For betting on live soccer matches, live dog races, and virtual games. Winners Golden Bet is your best bet. Instant payment of winnings guaranteed. Play online or in any of our numerous shops nearest to you.
Hey guys, be wise. Play on Winners Golden Bet.
Winners Golden Bet, the wise choice.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on PlusTvAfrica as he probes deep in search of solutions.
inside the Niger Delta with Mamode Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
It's a breakfast in Plus TV Africa. Many thanks for being part of the show this morning. It's about that time where we go through the pages of our national dailies. The front pages, to be very precise, we have our constant who joins us, Chris Kende Wandu. It's good to have you join us this morning.
Thank you, my sister. Good morning. How was your Easter break?
Well, there was no break, really.
I know.
It's all right. Let's take a look at the Leadership newspaper this morning. The banner caption would be the first port of call now. It talks about Igbo presidency. Southeast leaders want consensus across party lines. And in the words of the scripture, how can these things be? Southeast leaders want consensus across party lines. Bold caption written on the Leadership this morning. Underneath, there are several riders. Ohaneze to meet Southeast presidential aspirant as Ngige declares today. Okay, and he said he was going to make his intention known to Nigeria shortly after the Easter, and fingers across. PDP scrambles to reduce number of aspirants. Why? China denies backing Amechi for president. Really? And you also find office of president has been reduced to nothing. IPAC is also quoted. These are the riders underneath the caption. Don't tamper with $418 million Paris Club funds, state tells the federal government. There's also another bold caption that you find. And World Bank suggests steps for Nigeria, orders to avoid debt distress. It feels like we have gone too far in terms of our indebtedness. But away from the debt caption, we also look at presidency tackles Bishop Matthew Coker, asks him to join politics. Death toll in South Africa, flood hits 443 and others missing. Really sad. Oni lauds Amechi's leadership credentials. And Lagos shorts Chrisland schools over juvenile sex scandal. These are the headlines on the Leadership newspaper. But away from the Leadership, we take a quick look at the Nigerian Tribune. And on the Nigerian Tribune, a bit different from what's been reported on the Leadership, you find Affair Babalola to federal government. Suspend 2023 elections, set up to 6-month interim government. You need to read beyond the headlines. Suspend 2023 elections, set up 6-month interim government. Now, his reason for saying this is because we cannot continue to recycle the same category or the same persons we always do over time. Proposed new constitution that will provide for part-time legislators, one's next president to be healthy, educated, not more than 60 years old. Says Nigeria faces bankruptcy due to activities of corrupt leaders. These are the headlines, the bold caption, and the right is underneath the Nigerian Tribune. But away from that, Dubai sex tape, Lagos shuts down Christian schools, sharing child pornography attracts 14 years in jail. It warns, please begin investigation. 2023, governors relegated as politicians jostle for tickets. And away from that, you have the APC, PDP, APGA, others notify INEC on presidential convention. PDP to hold primaries May 29. APC May 30th. 31st for the SDP, or 30th and 31st for the APC. You also have the SDP saying 7 others keep mum on dates. So SDP and 7 other political parties haven't really talked about when they're about to hold their presidentials. Lagos bans military checkpoints in Apapa, outlaws 9 illegal checkpoints. And World Bank alerts on danger of rising debts and inflation. $418 million Paris Fund Club. You have state one's federal government. I take that again. $418 million Paris Club refund states one federal government. And Lagos GAC approves second term for Governor Sanwo-Olu. These are the headlines on the Nigerian Tribune. And quickly from the Nigerian Tribune, we'll just run through the Nation newspaper this morning. On the front page of the Nation newspaper, senators, reps to court sustain Electoral Act. We're looking at 84 subsection 12 of the Electoral Act as amended 2022. Outrage over pupils gang sex in Dubai. Please launch probe in schools short. Knocks for Matthew Coker, NEF. Sanwo-Olu gets green light for second term ticket. And food prices soar in March. Why economic recovery is slow by World Bank. There's also another one. You find don't deduct $418 million from the Paris Club debt from our location. States cautions the federal government. How Buhari should battle banditry killings by Cardinal. Find out the Cardinal. It's more like an editorial on the Nation newspaper this morning. Now, these are the headlines on the Nation newspaper. Away from the Nation, quickly, we'll just take a glance at the Punch newspaper. And just before we have Chris Kende-Nwandu joins the conversation. Electoral violence, 1,149 Nigerians killed. INEC suffers 42 attacks, decries rising insecurity. Electoral violence, 1,149 Nigerians killed. INEC suffers 42 attacks and decries rising insecurity. Underneath, Commission loses over 9,000 card readers. Plans risk assessment. There will be no result for violence merit polls. INEC rec threatens. Oyetola's aid warns against violence ahead of the governorship elections. These are riders underneath the bold caption. AGF letters delays Darie and Jolly. 157 others release. Talking about the pardon that was granted them by the president. Presidential pardon, if you like to say. Cross River, Taraba, Zamfara yet to pay minimum wage, and 4 others after how many years? 4 years after, you still have some of the states not complying. We're talking about the 30,000 naira minimum wage. And how does that even measure up with the current reality of inflation? Car dealers threaten to close stores this week over 15% charges. Lassa fever kills 138 NCDC activates emergency center. Vandalism orders push oil firms and banks borrowing to 5.68 trillion naira. It's also another caption you find. And just before we move away, you find another header saying, remove your what? Caste talks, join politics. Presidency replies Matthew Coker. Akeredolu returns to Nigeria amid death rumor. Afe Babalola 6 polls suspension, interim government after Buhari, and APCON to sanction Sterling Bank over the provocative Easter advert. 5 months after, Lagos fails to demolish and defective Ikoyi skyscraper. This is what you find. Chrisland Short School, parents disagree over alleged rape, and police begins that particular probe. These are the headlines this morning on the pages of our national dailies. We've been able to go through the Punch, the Nation, the Nigerian Tribune, and the Leadership. Chris Kane Nwandu is on standby. It's good to have you join us this morning, Chris.
Thank you once again for having me.
All right, so which of the headlines, interest you? Let's leave it open as we went through the pages of our national dailies.
Yes, I think we should start with the reaction of the federal government to the Easter message released by Father Bishop Kuka Matthew Kuka. Expectedly, I knew that the federal government, in their usual manner, react to that message. Rather than looking at the message, they are looking at the messenger, which is quite unfortunate that is where. There's practically nothing that Bishop Kuka said that is not true. And there's nothing that he has said that had not been repeated over and over again. Don't forget, the Northern Elders Forum also issues a statement along that line. The Islamic Society, JNI, I think, also issued. Then, even a few weeks ago, if not about a week or two ago, the Chief Imam of Apu Legislative Quarters also issued, also made mention of some of these things, which led to his being sacked by the Board of Trustees of that mosque. So, Bishop Kuka was only speaking the minds of Nigerians, and the federal government, as usual, behaving with said in the sand, leaving all his body exposed. Rather than look at those issues, started by attacking the bishop to the extent that Garba Shehu, the spokesperson of the president, was saying that if the bishop is interested, they should come and join politics. That is childish. Nobody that is not feeling, probably Garba Shehu is the only person in Nigeria that is not feeling the heat and the problem and all the level of insecurity, economic hardship, unemployment, name it, that Nigeria is facing. And is it not a fact that we are more divided now than we were in 2050? So what is it that he has said? Even Father Bishop Kuka is just following the part of other revered clergymen before him. If you remember Mercy Vivid, there used to be somebody, there used to be a bishop called Olubumi Okogye. He used to be the Archbishop of Lagos. That's his, he was also one of those that have always been echoing societal ills and saying that government should be responsive. And also that time there was also a clergyman called, I think, Reverend Adetiloye. I don't know his designation now. I don't know whether he's still alive. He used to be in charge of the Anglican Church in Nigeria. And he was also very, so it is always normal. If you go through the Bible, there are always men of God that we always want kings. Then we had kings, now we have president. This is the situation. People are suffering. Do something to improve the life of your citizens or people. And most of them when they close their ears to that, something always happens. So It's quite unfortunate, as I said once again, that someone in the person of Garba Shehu will come out and be attacking a more responsive government. We rather look at the issue as it were and try to find a way of making sure that some of these issues are addressed. But what we have in country, whenever anybody raises an issue, an objective issues, the government will come out with attack dogs and continue to attack it. But all well and good. We have barely 1 year for this government to exit. It is now left for them, whether they like it or not, for history to join them. Which part of the history that will be, I don't know. Whether positive or negative, it is left to them. But the fact remains that whatever, all that Bishop Kuka said is a true realization of what is on ground, and they can only but continue to pretend that it's not the truth.
So, but what do you make of the response of the federal government asking that he joins politics? Maybe it might just be a brilliant one.
That's what I said. They say he should join politics, and I said that is being childish, because if you want to join politics, is it Garba Shehu that is going to tend to join politics? Garba Shehu is just an appointee. Garba Shehu, to my knowledge, has not contested any election in Nigeria, and he has not won any election. He was just appointed by the president. He used to be an aide of Atiku Abubakar, to the best of my knowledge, prior to the 2015 election. After the election, and the president picked, I think he was nominated by Atiku Abubakar to serve in the cabinet of President Muhammadu Buhari. So he has never contested any election. So I should even be thinking he should be the one that should be contesting. Bishop Kuka has his work cut out for him. He's a clergyman. He's doing well in what he's doing. Garba Shehu, to me, is a yes man. And if he's talking about politics, I would rather think he should do a constituency in 2020 and contest and try to see whether he will be elected, either into any of the elected position. Anybody that says anything concerning the situation of things in the country is not the right way to go. And I think the president should call him to order. It's not every time you react to issues. It's not every time. The silence at times is good. It's not everything you react to. The one that the chief imam of Apo said, I didn't hear Garba Shehu issued any statement about that. The one that the Islamic group, JNI, also mentioned, I didn't hear Garba Shehu the best. So why is it that whenever Bishop Kuka speaks, he jumps on the tray and say right all sorts of this? They should know that they are public servants. They are there to serve us. Our taxes are being used to pay them. That is what is going on. Our taxes are being used to pay them. So any one of them that seems that is serving the president and just jump on any issue just for the fun of it, just know that, as I said earlier on, they will see themselves on the side of history where they want to find themselves. It's just barely 1 year. Those that were there before that did the dirty job, where are they today? Let's wait and see what happens.
All right, Chris, let's also take a look at this one, Igbo presidency. The Southeast leaders are asking that consensus should be a thing across party lines. And the question is, how can this be, especially when you have the Electoral Act giving them, the option of choosing direct primaries, indirect, and consensus? So
consensus is in the Electoral Act. So if they want to go on consensus, all well and good. But does consensus bring out the best in our polity? Does it give us the best candidates? I don't think so. I think they should go into the field and sort it out. And at the end of it, or the best candidate should be able to have it. Best, most often than not, at times consensus is an option where you want to trim down the number of people. When you have over 20 or 30 candidates jostling for a position, it makes it more difficult for you to be able to streamline yourself in getting somebody, a particular candidate. So if they within themselves, they agree that there's the need for them to have a consensus, well and good. I know that the Southeast candidates, about 3 of them recently met and agreed that they're going to work together. I know that of P2B, Pius Anyim, and one other, I think Ohapu and one other guy for the PDP. But they didn't come out to say that they're going to have a consensus candidate. But Ohanese and the other Igbo groups just felt that it will be much easier for them as a group if they come together and pick one of them Now that it seems that the PDP is a bit silent on whether they're going to throw the presidential ticket open or not, while the other zone are also gearing up to present candidates for them to come together and choose one of them. But to me, I think the best option is for all of them to go to the field and try it. Don't forget that also within the PDP, currently Tambuwa, Saraki, and Bala, the governor of Bauchi, already agreed that with themselves they're going to pick up a consensus candidate. But the the primaries is coming up in the next few weeks, and so many people, including myself, have always said that it is the turn of the Southeast to be given the ticket because the Southeast seems to be the only geopolitical zone that have not been able to get the presidency since 1999. Not even since 1999, since 1966 or thereabout. But it cannot just be dropped on your lap. Presidency cannot be dropped on your lap. You have to work so hard for it, as a region, as an individual, to be able to gather enough support from all other parts of the country. And once that is done and they believe in you, then the opportunity will give. So the Southeast geopolitical zones just shouldn't think that the presidency will just be dropped on their lap. Why they say, let's go into consensus. You have to consult, you have to meet with other leaders from other parts of the country. And they believe that you have what it takes. I have the right candidate to be able to do the job. I'm sure they will support the person as well as the issue of 2023 is concerned.
So let's talk about Chris Ngige. He says he will definitely declare his intention, and that's on Tuesday, to join the presidential race. What do you think about this? And he has also mentioned that if Nigerians give him the chance to work, he would definitely do great for the country.
The more the merrier. Chris Ngige has a right. He's eminently qualified in Nigeria. He has been a former governor. He has been a minister for close to 7 years now, I think. And I think he's eminently qualified. But the fact is that can he get the ticket of the APC? I don't know how possible that is. It will be an uphill task. When you look at the arrays of candidates that are just made for that job, you have Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu from Southwest. You have the Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo. You have Rotimi Amechi, who has also declared. And who else? And within the APC. So, but it is his right, and he feels that he can be able to muster enough consensus. Delegates. The delegate is about 7,080 or thereabout that is going to vote. What we don't know is where it will be zoned to, but practically it has to be to the south, because unlike the PDP that is leaving its own open, it seems to have made up its mind to zone the presidential ticket to the south. It is not within the south to know where to zone it, whether to the southwest, south-south, or southeast. You have Amechi coming from south-south already. You have Ngige, who is declaring today, coming from the southeast. You have the governor of Ebonyi State, Dave Umahi, from southeast. We also have vice president as well as Asiwaju. And we also heard that one or two governors from the southwest are also going to throw their hearts into the ring. But it's the delegates that will determine that, APC delegates. And whoever they choose, then they have to make sure that they got somebody that is formidable also, that can be able to challenge the candidate of the PDP and other political parties that will be coming up for the election. But my problem with the APC is that I wonder what they're going to campaign. Whoever emerges the candidate of APC, is he going to campaign on the legacies of the current government, just as the vice president said, that's going to improve on the legacies of President Muhammadu Buhari? And I continue to ask, what are those legacies? Is the legacies of unemployment? Is it legacy when it comes to insecurity? Is it legacy on the economy, where the naira is close to almost 590 to $1 now? Or which of the legacies? I don't know. But
in his case,
they have their work cut out.
I mean, in his case, he said he will re-engineer Nigeria the way he did with Anambra State when he was governor. So maybe that might just be something that's sellable.
Well, he will re-engineer Nigeria the way he re-engineered Anambra State. He didn't finish his term. So I wouldn't know. Yes, he did one or two things. But he has been in this government for almost 7 years. We have seen the issue of labor. Currently, ASU has been on strike for months. Last year, ASU was on strike for 1 full year, almost 1 full year. And we saw how he handled it as the Minister of Labor. So If that is what is bringing to the table, for me, as far as I'm concerned, it is dead on arrival because he doesn't have the capacity for me. If he cannot handle just a flimsy issue of ASU as the Minister of Labour, then how can we hand over a whole nation like Nigeria to you and believe that you can be able to deliver? If you cannot deliver on little things, then there's no possibility of you delivering on the bigger one.
All right.
So he shouldn't be talking about what Anambra. Let him tell us what he has done in the past 7 years as a minister.
Now, this is also underneath the bold caption for the leadership. It talks about the People's Democratic Party scrambled to reduce the number of presidential aspirant. And you are saying that it's free for all, especially as you have a lot of persons contesting. Don't you think that this might just be another way of depriving the people of their constitutional right? Chris Kende, do we still have you on the line?
Well, for now,
go ahead. Okay, so it seems like we have been
set up the PDP led by the governor of Benue, where it was agreed we committed them up with a resolution on how the issue of will be done, and that committee has submitted its report to the National Executive Council of PDP. Although the snippets from that committee report that it has been the presidential this thing has been thrown open, but that the neck of PDP has not come out to tell Nigerians whether it has been thrown open or not. So until that committee comes up, it seems as it were presently like it is an open race, and every candidate from all parts of Nigeria is free for now to contest. But until the National Executive Council come out to tell us specifically whether it has been thrown open, whether it has been zoned in any particular region, the candidates will continue to campaign as it were.
So also on the Nigerian Tribune this morning, Afe Babalola said to that's gotten a lot of reactions. People, those who have actually not read beyond the headlines, seem to be having a different opinion. But this is what he's suggesting: suspend the 2023 elections, set up 6-month interim government. And that's because we cannot continue to recycle this old, in his word, the same people, not the word old in his say, but the same persons who have been in power. But what do you think about this ideology? Should we consider recycling for the fact that we don't want to bring back the crop of persons that we've had almost from 1999?
That is out of the window for me. Out of the window. To the luminary. That is out of the window. Why are you setting up an interim government in a democratic system? We saw what the interim government under the military regime of Babangida, the one he set up then, and what happened to it, how Abacha came in, and removed that. An interim government is not known to our constitution. I don't know where in the constitution the son, reverse son, so that I used to saying that we should go and amend the 1999 constitution as amended. It's not possible. What we should be canvassing is getting the best out of all the candidates and making sure that we elect the right people, pick the right people, and making sure that people's vote counts. The problem with Nigeria is, apart from getting the right candidate, is because of the fact that most people don't believe that their vote counts. And you look at the number of registered voters and those that vote at any election, you come to ask yourself why just a few number of people elected, because they don't believe in the system, in the electoral process, because they also don't believe that their vote counts. So want to be able to make people to believe that when they vote, their vote will count, then that is where the issue is. So, but for me, an interim government is a no-no. It will not work, it has never worked, and will never work under the circumstances. As it were presently, it's the same set of people after the interim government is talking about, it's the same set of people that will come back and contest. So how do we stop them from contesting? It's not possible. How are you going to do that? So for me, I don't think it's not the way to go at all.
But he also raised, some of the issues he's proposed and concerns for him about, for instance, you have the constitution, according to him, it's a military constitution, and it hasn't really captured the current reality of, the country. And also, he talked about having provision for part-time legislators, where you don't have to have it, on a full-scale basis. These are some of the concerns and issues that he has raised, and the reason why we should, take that time and propose having some new constitution. What can we achieve within 6 months?
I think what you should be canvassing, yes. When you talk about taking with the Constitution, yes, I totally agree with you. I think we need for us to be able to think out with the Constitution. We need for us to have a holistic look at our Constitution, present as it were. Yes, this Constitution we are working was handed over to us by the military in 1998, 1999. And everybody believed that this is not a holistic Constitution, that they don't have the input of Nigerians. But we've had national conferences where so many suggestions were made. But the current government and some of the government have refused to look at that report. I would think, and as I've always come back, it's for us to go back with that constitutional conference, dust up the book, and look at the issues at the and some of the pertinent issues germane issues that were raised, and that would help. The way the current constitution is structured is not doing us any lot of good, and it has always been that we've agreed that it is not working. We can do it. Either we do away with this constitution and get a new one, or we do the necessary amendment. But you know that the National Assembly did a recent amendment, and some of the clauses, I think about 47 or so clauses of the Constitution. That is just a minute part of this Constitution. We've talked about the issue of state policing. We've talked about the issue of giving more power to the state. We are talking about the issue of mineral resources. We are talking of even the issue of restructuring as a whole. That the way Nigeria is current is not working. Yes, I agree that we can do that. But that does not mean that we take our democracy as it were and not setting up an interim government, which will do us no good at all. When you set up an interim government, where will the president come? The interim president come from the north, south, west, east, or where? It will just take us about 20 years back. It's not workable at all.
Well, it's quite unfortunate because, I mean, if you look at some of the argument and proposition that is put out, as much as a lot of persons have not agreed, has talked about the fact that, this constitution makes politics. And you find that a lot of people are just trooping. I mean, look at the number of persons who have declared interest to become president. Look at the number of persons who have declared interest in their various states to become governors, council chairmen, and all of that. What exactly are they really going there to serve the interests of the people? And constantly, we look at the policies. Every time we look at government policies, how much of those policies across the entire country, whether at the state level or at the federal level, represent the interest of the people or reflect the interest, because policies, on the other hand, should solve problems. But that has not been the case for us. But fingers were crossed, and like we always say, Nigeria is a nascent democracy. We hope that we get to a point where we have it all together. We will keep keeping on and keep pushing until we get that. I know that we're out of time, and I've been prompted to just go off. But just for the fact that you are a parent, I want to believe that you're a parent. The incident that happened, the Chrisland incident that happened, the sex scandal, the video, and all of this, and the fact that the federal Lagos state government has shut down schools, required that schools in the states be shut down. What are your thoughts on this in just a few seconds?
Yes, what happened to every parent. Yes, I'm a parent. I'm a father of 3 children, 2 girls and a boy. So I know what you're talking about. And for me, what happened is just unfortunate. That, one, I blame it on parenthood, because it seems our parents have lost the morality, or they have abdicated their role to schools. Then secondly, I also blame the schools for what happened, because if a child is put in your custody, and you take the child away to far away Dubai, and you cannot be able to monitor what the child is doing or what's doing, then you have a moral question. And my own on this is that why is it always peace land, this particular school? Don't forget 2 years ago, There is a teacher in this school that was jailed for 60 years for defiling a 2-year-old child. Here, Mercy, if you don't know that, it's the fact that a teacher in this school, this same Chris Land School, has been sentenced to 60 years imprisonment, still imprisonment, for defiling a 2-year-old child. That shows you the moral question as far as this school is concerned. And I think before this school is open, a due diligence must be done by the government and make sure that the right thing is done. But what is happening is just a rather unfortunate incident where our children seem to have lost it, where the parents have lost their right to be good parents and to wear. This never happened when we are growing up. People are saying that it's the new age. What about the new age? This is not the way to go. Parents, we as parents, religious leaders, community leaders, and the entire country should be able to rescue our children from what is happening. Most of what they are doing is what they learn through the internet or the advance of technology. But for a child of 10 years old, that is a no-no to me. It's quite unfortunate.
Thank you, Chris Kende Wandu, for being part of the show this morning. It's been a delight. I mean, great thoughts that you've put out there. We look forward to sharing more of your thoughts on this platform.
Thank you very much, and do have a good day.
Fantastic day to you too. Thank you so much. And that's the size of the press this morning. We'll take a quick break, but just before then, let's tell you what happened today, being the 19th day in April in history.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges. The growing youth population with little engagement, that is a ticking time bomb. We are a blessed people with diverse culture and highly cerebral minds who have a lot to say. And yes, we are talking.
it is important we drive the right conversation that informs, inspires, influences thoughts and action. If we say there's beauty in our diversity, then let us embrace our diverse culture. We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation as we are the hope for the future. Yesterday's conversations shape today. What are you saying to shape your tomorrow? We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
Now 500 naira they collect them.
If you no talk, then go beat you.
Now 2,500 they pay.
Can we have peace with
without justice.
Plus Politics. It's not just another political conversation, it's about keeping you in the know. The relevant interviews, asking the tough questions to those that matter. Get the answers you need. Does it mean that the people who were injured, people who were shot at, those who were involved in that stampede are not going to get justice?
It is unfortunate, it is sad that we have a government of deaf and dumb.
Analysis from top experts.
The last election was not really an election.
We feel that Obasanjo has a very special place in his heart for hating Ijaw people.
I think it really boils down to two things. One, trust and accountability.
Plus Politics, every weeknight at 7 p.m. on Plus TV Africa.
It's still the breakfast in Plus TV Africa. Time for us to head straight to our first major conversation right here. Now, at this point, we'll be looking at the issue of parenting. We're looking at education and all that surrounds, our children. And this is following the issue of the sex tape and scandal of Chrisland School. But of course, we have Justin here.
Well, good morning,
How
Mercy.
was it?
I'm doing okay. How are you doing this morning?
It's good to have you join me. It's all right.
Yeah, today could have been a very wonderful day, but it will still be a good day. You don't have to be, just trying to maneuver through Lagos and all. But thank God I'm here all the same. Yeah, so like Mercy said, we'll be looking at the fallout of what happened at the Chrisland School when the children went to Dubai. But we'll look at the angle of parenting, education, upbringing, and of course all the latest twists and updates on that particular incident. And we have a guest joining us this morning, and let's make welcome Betty Abba. She is joining us. She is a journalist. She is a women's and child advocate, and she will be giving her own perspective concerning all of the issues on the show this morning. Good morning to you, Betty. She is also the founder, executive director of Sea Hope Nigeria. Thanks for joining us, Betty Abba.
Thank you so much. The pleasure.
Yes. Let's just dive right through it. In our pre-chat yesterday, we were talking about the development when it was still fresh, and how Obi Franklin posted and was saying that a child of 10 was raped. Since then, Chrisland School has been closed. All its branches in the state has been closed, and there are more revelations concerning what has happened. A sex tape was posted all through Twitter, and reactions have been trailing all of that. But let's talk right now. A lot of people have said that it is the issue from the home front. A lot of people have said that it is an issue of upbringing, and some have even said that it is a case of education. Let's just get your general perspective concerning all that has happened so far, Betty.
Thank you very much. I think I would like to, as much as possible, see it from a professional angle. And that is to say, in all of this, what should be at the back of our mind should be in the interest of a minor or the minors that are involved in this very unfortunate incident. We'll blame the parents because I understand that the girl even has I think a social media handle. I've forgotten the name of the place. And she has over 500 videos. Many of the videos shot at home, shot in the school and all of that. So where were the parents in all of this? I saw there's a failure on the part of parenting, no doubt. And then we also look at it from the angle of Chrisland School. They never handled this case well. And a lot of scandals have trailed Chrisland, unfortunately, in the past, which they never handled well. In the first place, why did they leave minors unattended to on a foreign trip? They went to Dubai, and then these children had the liberty to roam around in hotels, girls going to boys' room and all of that. Why did that happen? And then when this unfortunate incident came to light before the school, I understand that from the parents, from the mother's explanation, they never knew. They were kept in the dark. And then these children were the girl was taken for a pregnancy test about 2 or 3 times without the parents' knowledge or consent. And then they resorted to stigmatization, they resorted to blackmail, they resorted to threatening the girl to keep mute and all of that. I keep asking, who are the handlers of Chrisland School? Who are the advisors of Chrisland School? We saw a very scandalous case that happened about a few years ago. A teacher that was accused of raping a 2-year-old girl or sexually molesting a 2-year-old girl, child defilement. And the school went all the way to hire a senior advocate of Nigeria, a lawyer, big lawyers, and spend millions of naira, obviously, to defend this teacher. At the end of the day, he was convicted to 60-year imprisonment by the Lagos state government after there were clear evidence that he actually did this. So, who are the advisors of Chrisland? How come they are not able to handle cases like this? And also to say that the rest of the society, we also fail our children, we fail this girl, we fail as many people as were involved in that scandalous sex tape. Who were the boys? Who were the people that put it out, that put the video out? And why are we as adults, as standers by, why are we sharing it? Why are we doing mobbing? Why are we mobbing the girl? Instead of seeing how we can offer help to this girl. She needs help, her parents need help. The boys that were involved in this thing need help. I understand the girl just a 10-year-old girl. You can imagine the level of moral decadence of the girl and every other person involved. Where were the parents of these children in all of this? Where is the school in all of this? Because the entire act, the entire action did not start at that Dubai hotel sex tape or sex scenario. It's probably something that has been ongoing for years. And I understand that many of these elite schools, the teachers cannot correct the students because they are from very big and influential homes. And the school will not allow the teachers to correct them. So because they don't want to lose their customer. When you are running an educational institution, you are not just in business. You are there to mend lives. You are there to train generations. So what is the duty of care of Chrisland School in raising these children? The same way we saw what happened at Dowen College. What is the duty of care for these schools that they will not correct young people? That they will allow them to do whatever they want, and the teachers are not in a position to correct them. So I'm happy that the Lagos state government has shut down the school so that they can have a review of their fundamentals, their reason, their motivation for setting that school up in the first place. And I think that maybe at the end of the day, the school will be better for it. The children will be better for it. And even the rest of the society will be better for it. The people that are busy sharing this very terrible video. I haven't watched it and I don't intend to watch it. But I think we should be less judgmental. We should look at solutions. Thank you.
All right, so let's also look at the fact that we're in a technology-driven period or age where you have technology has taken over, and you cannot also separate that from the fact that these kids need to learn. So what do we now do? So technology backed up with smartphones that has access to this children's hand. How do we now control all of this in the case of raising our children?
It's extremely hard. It's extremely hard. The way you are raising children in this age, you have to go the extra mile to ensure that you are not raising a children that will contribute more to the moral decadence of the society. You're not raising children that will give you heartache and probably make you die for your time. You have to go the extra mile. And over time, there are parental controls over phones, over devices. How many parents have been careful enough to even study this in order to apply it? We've had cases of children who are addicted to pornography, to pornographic sites. We've had cases of, some of those cases that we've handled in the past is because they watch these things on their parents' phone. So what example are the parents setting for their children who have young, impressionable children, persons around you, and you are putting pornographic videos on your phone? You are putting very graphic videos on your phone, and these children can access it. So there has to be a level of control over very strict control over what they can view on their phones. And many children that are even handling phones these days, in the first place, they are not supposed to be given phones because it's something that can end up being very destructive to their growth, to their personal growth, development, and their morality. So at what age do we give phone? We allow children to handle phone, not just basic phones, smartphones with all the features and devices where they can access very damaging sites. So parents have to have a control. Parents have to, from time to time, look around for the children, the students or friends they keep. We have to eavesdrop on their conversation. We have to keep talking to them. We have to just be there for our children. We just have to ensure that we continue monitoring them, because we are in perilous times, as we say. More than ever before, the internet has an overwhelming influence on all our lives, and children are not left out. And the access to pornographic sites, to violent sites, is one of the fallout of this, the impact of the internet. And so children, parents have to have a control. And then they have to put their children in schools where they can learn and also be of good behavior. As one say, schools will say they brought you up not just educationally, they deemed you qualified to get a certificate because you proved yourself to be qualified intellectually and also morally. Which schools are we putting our children? Are we putting them because they are high-sounding schools, elite schools, so that when you tell people at parents gathering that your child is in Chrisland, your child is in Dowen, your child is in British American, this, everybody will clap for you, hold you in high regard. We should investigate schools. How are those schools run? Do they have some moral fabrics running in the veins in the administration of those schools, or they are just schools for spoiled brats, for spoiled kids? You just want your children to be there. So if you want the best for your children, you have to go all the way. You have to be involved in their lives, in the moral standards they keep, in the schools they go to. Everything about your children, you really have to be. You cannot be distant. You cannot be distracted by work, because you are raising a generation. And however those children turn out to be tomorrow, it will be. I mean, if you raise up children that are criminals, that are contributing to moral decadence in the society, you'll be questioned, just like the parents of these girls are being questioned as to their parental upbringing.
But let's just stay with
parents have to take more control and be more serious about what their children accept, the friends they keep, the schools they go to. They have to be involved in their children's life.
Mrs. Betty Abe, let's still stay with the issue of technology and the fact that children now have access to smartphones. I mean, you have mentioned that prior to this time, you have children who have access to their parents' phone, and some of these devices would have some pornographic content. But it's gone way beyond that. Children now have, a lot of children, I would not say all because that would be hasty generalization. A lot of children have access, not all entirely, to smartphones. And you know how the OS of these phones are being run. These days you go online, things just pop up. Things that you don't request for are already at your face. So that's on the one hand. And on the other hand as well, should we come to a point where we have developers, and this might not necessarily be for us as a country, because not that we are developing all of this, but should we get to a point where we say developers should begin to consider creating phones or developing phones that would be children-friendly, running from the OS with, not giving their children phone? Do you think that
there are already provisions for that? Sorry? There are already provisions for that. I know that I've read a lot about phones having devices. I don't have a child that is old enough to use the phone yet, but I understand there are phones that have parental control, that your child cannot access so many sites because you put a lock on them. And there are sites, if they go to, you get a signal on your own phone. And even with access to TV, you put parental control, and they cannot go beyond some stations, some programs. So those provisions are already there. They actually are already there. It's just for the parents to make use of them. But then the fact is that it's impossible for parents to be 100% in control, especially because children go to school, and some of these children come to school with smartphones, and some of their parents are actually very careless, reckless, I must say, and they are no far. And so they cannot for their view on their friend's phone. So there's actually a limit to that control. And in that aspect, to say, as a parent, you have to set the right standard in your home. You have to be an example to your children. If you watch those things, your children will automatically watch them at your back. And if you don't live as a man, if you bring a woman, and you know some men bring women to the house in the presence of their children, you are setting a very terrible precedent for those children. They are going to live that way. They're going to believe that that is normal, that is a way of life. And so parents just have to try the most that they can. And then the parents, apart from putting strict control on phones, make sure that their children go to clubs where they are mentored, where they are given orientation about how to live a positive life, about how to live a purpose-driven life. Children's camps, clubs. I always say that I'm a product of the Sunday school club from the Methodist Church where I grew up. And the moral standards that were instituted, the moral standards that were taught to us, everywhere I go in the world, I hold those standards very dear to my heart. They define my life principle. And so when children are ingrained as from a very young age with those principles, it's extremely, extremely hard for them to deviate from it. So as parents, we have to do all we can, expose children to teachings that will improve their lives, that will enrich their life, take them to children's camp, take them to mentoring program, and it will bring about a whole lot of change in their lives, apart from ensuring that you have control of their phones and ensure that they have as less access to phones, smartphones, or TV programs that will corrupt their mind as much as possible. I've been in a home, I think sometime about 15, 16 years ago, I was in US, and I went to visit a Nigerian parents' home. I went to their children's home. I think I needed to make use of the computer, so I was using their children's computer. And there were a lot of pornographic sites on that computer that they had opened. I was alarmed because they were just teenagers, 10 years, 12 years, and they had all these pornographic porn sites open on their phone, on their computer. So I drew the attention of their mother. I said, look at what your children are watching on the site they are exploring on their TV, on their computer. And she just shrugged. She was so dismissive. I can't forget that. So, I mean, and those were children. So I wonder at this level, they'll be in their 20s or maybe late 20s now, or early mid-20s. I imagine the level of decadence that they will be at right now if something had not happened along the way. So I think children and parents, like I say, have to be more involved. You try the best you can and leave the rest to God. But it must be said that you have tried.
All right, Betty, let's talk more. You've talked about, the parents getting more or better involved in the activities and, all the contents, that their children consume. Let's take it one step further. On whose back, on whose shoulder does it really stop when we talk about the issue of, sex education right now? Because you will agree with me that what the children did, is actually the act of immoral content. And we don't even know how they got there, how they were able to do or get to the point of recording all of that. But right now, don't you think that if these children were better educated on what to do, what not to do, and how they should go about these things, so if they are approached, don't you think we'll be having less problems in our society? But whose back does it really rest? Is it on the school, the teachers? Is it the parents, the mothers, the fathers? Because most times parents actually shy away, when it comes to sex education. How do you reason all of that?
Yes, I think that first of all, it has to do with the parents because that's the first base for the child. So parents have a responsibility to give sex education to their children as early as 4 or 5 years in child-friendly and appropriate languages. So parents have the first and fundamental responsibility, and also teachers. Some schools shy away from sex education, and at the end of the day, it does not augur well for anyone. So, and they have to do it in languages that are appropriate. But I'm not even sure that this particular incident has to do with sex education. It's about children that were let loose on their own to explore the world, the immoral world, so to say. And there were no checks whatsoever. So, and everything is boomeranging. The school is being scandalized. The parents of
but from the way you're coming,
and all Betty, of that. So it's about children being let loose on their own. Parents running to earn a livelihood, to make as much money as possible, and not looking the way of your children, and not offering advice, and not offering any form of restraint. Because you have money, your children can do anything. Look at what happened in Dowen. The children were so, they were so big, they were controlling their teachers, they were calling them by their first name, they were sending them on errands to withdraw money for them to do this, because they had gotten to a stage that nobody could control them. So why did you send them to school if your children cannot be controlled? And so if you will intimidate teachers and the school administration when they try to correct your children, then why did you bother to send them out in the first place? So it's about lack of parental control. It's about the absence of parenting. And that is what we are seeing in this case, especially the rich and influential parents not being present in the lives of their children. So sex education is important, but in this particular case, I think the children have overexposure to sex education.
Okay, so
and I think it has to be addressed.
I don't know how that is when you say that the children have overexposure to sex education, or the children have decided to discover by themselves, because I don't know if they are being taught about these things. We know the culture that we are part of, a culture where it's a taboo to say the word sex, even in church, and we can't even call parts of the body. There are sensitive parts of the body. Even in educating our children, we don't tell them that, this is part of a body. So we begin to look for names to call them. That's because we don't want to sound unholy. Just like you have the ear, every other part of the body is part of the body. So it starts from there. But from your perspective, it sounds like we are actually relegating and shifting the responsibility to the school. We seem to be moving it now to the school that, the school had failed at this, the school had failed at that. We understand that the school has a role to play. But let's even stay back with the home. In all of this, people say that this is just poor parenting, and this is totally on the fact that parents have not had time in the chase of, the rat race that we are all in. Parents no longer have time and, pay attention. And for some elites, it's no longer business. People no longer check what's going on, in their homes. Accountability is no longer the system. So I would like you again to say this, that is this really a case of the school's failure, or is it failure from the home and parenting?
No, I think we are on the same page on this. I actually said that is a failure fundamentally, first of all, of the parents. Is the failure of parenting. That the parents were not present in the lives of these children. I've worked with children since age 14, and all my life actually revolves around children. And when you see children that are from homes that are where they receive good training, whose parents are present in their lives, you will just know within 30 minutes when you see a child, you already know that child's history by the comportment, by the attitude. You already know. So obviously, when we see cases like this, is first of all a failure of parenting. But what happens is that most parents, when they are not present in the lives of the children, when they are too busy to be present, to have any form of control because they are busy pursuing money, they shift everything to the school. And sometimes the school tries in their best way as much as possible to correct, to bring up these children, to mold them as much as possible. And sometimes they succeed. But in some cases, the children are just completely out of control, that the school have no control and they cannot help whatsoever. And especially when the school also relegates its responsibility, because in all of this, the school also has a duty of care. The school, because children actually spend more time in school. So what do the school perceive to be their duty of care? How are they helping these children to grow, whether the parents are present in their lives or not? So it's a two-way thing. The parents have a role, and the school also have a role to play. So that when but what we've seen in this particular case is there's an absolute or a near absolute failure on the part of both parents and the
all right, Betty.
So they all have to sit up. Like I said, my position in all of this matter is can we look for a position? And what the Lagos State government, the press statement they put out yesterday was just excellent.
All right.
They are focused on finding solutions, psychosocial support for these children. And that is where it should start.
Yeah, still talking about solutions. Let's talk about the ways forward right now. The deed has been done. These children have been exposed. The girl is in the middle of all of this, and also the boys. Now, what do we do for these children? How do we begin to maybe restructure their mind? Because somehow they no longer have their own privacy right now. And those boys who could actually go to the extent of recording, such an immoral act, how to begin to reform them, and so that they actually would live better lives. They're just children, and they have a long way to go, in building and molding, their lifestyle. So how do we help these children?
Thank you very much. I think, like I said, I just mentioned earlier, the Lagos State government has taken the right step by shutting down the school so that they can reappraise the entire situation, even the fundamentals of the administration of Chrisland School, because of these scandals, these horrible scandals that keep coming out from that school. Because I believe there's a major default, there's a major dysfunction in the administration of Chrisland School and the motive why they set up that school. They really have to reappraise it. And maybe the Lagos State government will help them in that process. So I think, first of all, we have to find solution. And the Lagos State government, in the press statement by the Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency, said they would provide psychosocial support for the children. Psychological, they'll have psychosocial sessions with the children. So because these children need psychological support, they are minors, whichever way you want to look at it. That's why when this girl stabbed her husband, poisoned her husband in Kano, is it Safia also, that little 14-year-old girl, that killed her husband in Kano some years ago. She was treated as a minor. She was sentenced to how many years imprisonment and all of that. At the end of the day, she was she wasn't convicted anymore. She was set free. She was acquitted because she is a minor. So these are children that are in conflict with the law, engaging in that kind of horrible act, and then also putting it out, videoing it and putting it out on social media. And I understand it even attracts 14-year imprisonment. But these are minors, and we cannot apply the same rule to them. What they need is help. Psychological help. So, and I'm really happy that the Lagos State government has promised to provide that help in the course of their investigating this very horrible scenario that we found ourselves in. So, first of all, they need that psychological help. Their parents also need help. The parents of the girl need help because the contents are already out. Our name is out in the public domain and all of that. I guess our picture also. And it's not good. It's extremely damaging. So they need help, and they need all the parenting advice that they can get. And then the school needs us to sit up. I'm sure they will, because I keep wondering, who are the advisors of Chrisland School? Who are the advisors of Chrisland School? How can a baby, a 2-year-old girl in your school come up to say she had been sexually molested by this man over a period of time, and she kept maintaining it even when she got to age 4? And then you kept threatening her mother. You kept intimidating her mother. And you went all the way to hire a senior advocate of Nigeria to defend a pedophile in court. What kind of school are you? What kind of educational institution are you running? What is your duty of care to these children? And I just heard yesterday another terrible news. One of the students of Chrisland School impregnated a girl in that school, his mate. And when they had an emergency PTA meeting, the owner, the head of the school told them, I'm really happy that this does not involve one of my teachers. And so you should go and sort out yourself. Can you imagine that? So what is your duty of care? I keep emphasizing it. What is your duty of care? So I think Chrisland School should be investigated. Chrisland School should be put on the right path, because right now,
thank you so much.
The fundamentals is actually shaky. It's actually faulty.
All right, thank you so much. Indeed, the Lagos State government is doing all the investigations so we can get to the root cause, and if there are sanctions, to be meted out to whoever or to whatever, it should be done. And of course, the children who are the center of this all, we need to ensure that they are safe, and of course they are rehabilitated. Once again, we must say a very big thank you to you, Betty Abba. She is the founder, executive director, See Hope Nigeria. Thanks for sharing your thoughts with us today.
Hey, thanks.
Thank you so much for pleasure. Bye.
All right, it's still the breakfast on Plus TV Africa. We're staying on social issues on the show today. We'll take a quick break. When we return, we'll be looking at the role churches can play in the wake of all of this domestic violence that is plaguing our society. In a moment, to join us again.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. On the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
So what are the top decisions that the United States considers necessary that Nigeria must take? I like to think of my interactions as conversations, not interviews. And that's why I say asking questions is both an art and a science. Everyone says in Islam you are allowed to have 4 wives. Is it mandatory? The right question enables answers that educate, inform, clarify, and help you, the viewer, to better understand the issue before making up your mind.
Our goal is to reduce from 10 to 2 days the time it takes to register businesses in Nigeria.
Join me every week on this station, Plus TV Africa, and gain exclusive access to my conversations. I'm Angela Ajetumobi.
Tenancy agreement. So in a case that the landlord wants to evict the tenant, in a case there's no tenancy agreement, what happens in court?
Well, usually what the court will do, or what is expected of the landlord in that situation, is to look at the mode of payment. Number one, it is established, there is no controversy as to the fact that the tenant is a tenant of the landlord, whether or not there is a written tenancy agreement. The fact that there is possession, the tenant is in possession of the premises, and he has made some form of payment, which is rent, to the landlord for the use of the premises, that would create a relationship, a tenancy relationship between the landlord and the tenant.
Space and Style, 6:30 p.m. on Saturdays and 5:30 p.m. on Wednesdays.
President.
All right, welcome back. It's still the breakfast on Plus TV Africa. Like I said before the break, we're looking at psycho-social issues affecting us as a people. And in recent times, we have been plagued with reports of domestic violence, sexual-based violence, and of course, sex tapes, about children and all of that. Where are we actually headed for? But right now, we'll just stay on domestic violence, and we want to know, we're asking questions, just how far can the church, religious leaders, go when it comes to the issue of domestic violence? You remember what happened with the case of popular gospel singer Osina Chinwachukwu, how she was allegedly beaten by her husband, and eventually she died, although the case is still being investigated. But this time around, we have the chairman in Kaduna State joining us, Reverend John Joseph Hayab. Many thanks for joining us on The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, fellow Nigerians.
All right, I'll just dive straight into it right now. What's the church's position when it comes to domestic violence? Most times when issues like this happen, and churches or religious leaders would actually say that the woman cannot leave the husband because the Bible, that's what they usually quote for us, that the Bible or the church does not support divorces and all of that. But what's the position of the church when it comes to domestic violence?
Yes, the Bible does not support divorce, but the Bible equally does not support evil, wickedness, brutality, and any form of violence. So just as the Bible does not support divorce, the Bible too does not support evil and wickedness. You see, I've tried to explain this to many Christians, that when Jesus was speaking to his disciples and responded to a question that on what reason should a man divorce his wife? And the reason that was given was that on marital unfaithfulness. I think we need to look deeply into scripture and understand what is the definition of marital unfaithfulness. Because the Bible in 1 Timothy chapter 5 verse 8 says that whoever do not care or whoever fail to take care of his family or to protect his family or to provide the needs of his family is worse than an infidel. And the same scripture says that you should have no equal yoke with unbelievers, with infidels. So if someone beats his wife, battered his wife, wants to kill his wife, he is an infidel. So having equal yoke with an infidel is also contradicting the scripture. So we have to apply it based on what the scripture says, not just an isolated verse. Because I cannot, as a father, give out my daughter, and a man that claims to love my daughter now change in loving my daughter and become evil, beating her and want to kill her. And I say, no, because we go to church. No, because the Bible tells me that I should have no equal yoke with an unbeliever, with an infidel, because by his action, he has shown that he do not know God, he do not serve God, he does not fear God. When you look at the Bible in 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7, the Bible specifically said that men should treat their wives with respect, understanding that they are equal, they are weaker vessels, because the kind of treatment you treat your wife could determine whether your prayers will be answered. So if a man has willingly decided that he does not want his prayer to be answered, that means the man is out of faith. So the Bible condemns beating or violence against women or violence against any human being, and whoever indulges in that has identified himself as an infidel, and so should not be treated as a brother. And so keeping a wife under such a person is not biblical, and neither are you helping her spiritually.
Okay, so now let's come to, let's also look at the fact that what can the body of Christ now and the church do as a role in ensuring that domestic violence is prevented? Of course, not everyone has the understanding of the scriptures that you have put out, and not everyone would actually, understand that scripture in different denominations across the country. So constantly you find out that victims of domestic violence, whether it's a man or a woman, they don't want to talk about it. They constantly stay in the marriage because for the fact that God hates divorce, and that's the scripture that's predominant in their minds. And so they stay, and some of them get killed in the course of all of this. So what can the church do in this fight against domestic violence?
Well, before I answer that question, let me add here that when we talk about scripture, we don't talk about denomination. The Bible is not a denomination. The Bible is the infallible word of God. And pastors must live and teach the Bible, not teach denomination. I think, as I agree with you, one of the reasons why we are where we are today is we try to apply the Bible on the basis of denomination, not on what God said. Because you have to look at the Bible holistically. It has no Catholic, it has no Pentecostal, it has no Protestant. It has only the Word of God, and people must live in accordance with the Word of God. When people don't go in accordance with the Word of God and want to go by church, then we will be doing something evil. And when you appear before God, God wouldn't ask you as a woman who has been battered and killed that, oh, welcome, you are a faithful member of Equa, you are a faithful member of Baptist or Redeemed. God is going to ask you whether you know him, you served him honestly. But let me come to your question. The church has so many roles. The church is actually an institution where it grooms, trains, and builds people to become better Christians. And as among many of the things that the church needs to do is, number one, the church needs to intensify teaching. You see, there's nothing education cannot do. But the church seems not to be doing a lot about teaching. What the church does mostly is only on wedding day, then the pastor will preach about marriage, about loving your wife. And after that, you find many of our church don't even hold seminar on that anymore. Even the marriage counseling that we used to hold, sometimes we think that there are certain places that we don't want to talk about. It is a taboo. We must be open to intending couples for them to understand what it means to love, what it means to care, what it means to defend one another. Apart from that, the church should openly rebuke those who are found to be doing this evil and they claim to be members of the church, whether they are elders, whether they are pastors, whether they are just worshippers. If there is a concrete report, confirmed report that you are acting violently against your wife, the church should openly rebuke you. The church have many reasons they discipline people. The discipline should not be restricted to those other ones. The discipline should also come on this. And not only that, the church must show example. Do you know that even some pastors who preach in court are guilty of even what we're talking about? So if we don't lead by example, the chances is that people wouldn't learn anything. People want to see the love you show your wife. People watch our wives when we come to church on Sundays. They see how their faces are not shining, they are not smiling, and they'll begin to suspect, is everything all right? Is there a problem in their house? So we have to show that good example. So when the church teach, correct, rebuke, and then show example, we may overcome this.
All right, Reverend Hayab, let's talk more about the role of the church and the place of the church, because oftentimes most people don't talk about these things. Most people just are silent about it because of stigmatization, and sometimes the church some churches, might give them the back door or the back seat over time. For instance, you are actively involved in the church's choir. You are like a role model, and they're like, what kind of modeling will you be giving to other people or other members of the choir or the church if you're not divorced, or if you are involved in issues of domestic violence? Most times they'll ask you to go home and pray about it, and even if you are divorced, some churches would actually ask you to take the back seat because you are not living by good example. So how do we even strike a balance? How do we know where to draw the line, really?
You see, our job as a church is to help those who come to worship, is to let them grow beyond where they are when they came to our church. If we do that, we'll be able to help them out. But you see, it is dangerous when you want to help a weak person and you are hiding his weakness. It is dangerous when you want to help a man who is sinning and you want to cover his sin. It is dangerous when you want to help a man or a person who is in danger, but you want to make the danger look as if it is hidden. I think this is where many churches get it wrong. There is need for us to openly speak about this, to openly correct this, to openly discipline those who do this, to openly rebuke those who do this without covering it. Let the man know that this practice is not, and the woman knows that this practice is not acceptable in our church. But even as we do that, we are not in any way trying to condemn them, but we are showing them that there are practices, there are attitudes that the church will not tolerate, the church will not clap for you. So these are the ways we will have people to come. But as you rightly said, many churches find it difficult to speak about this, and sometimes those who do this act of violence against either women or men are powerful people in the church, probably the givers of the highest offering. And so everybody is afraid to correct them, to rebuke them, and draw their attention to those things they are doing. That is where pastoral ministry is come to test. As a pastor, your job is to show the person who is wrong, brother, what you are doing is wrong, and it's not a good testimony for our church, so we cannot allow. It's not just about putting him in the back seat. You see, the back seat is also a tradition somewhere, but there are certain ways you will do, and church members will know this thing is wrong. Today, actually everywhere we are discussing this, But allow us a week or two. Once we overcome this story, we will forget it and we will not mention it again until another one happens. This is what we're supposed to be teaching every day. We're supposed to be reminding our members. Look, we're supposed to even begin to guide the teenagers. The teenagers must begin to see the fellow woman or the young girl by their side in class, the young girl in the teenager church as their friend, as part of them. You see, children grow up to think that any other person that is not like them, they are either above the other person or they should show the other person they are macho men. And that's how they growing to beat young girls and grow to beat their wives. Or they learn to see their parents beating their mothers and they think that beating a woman makes you a big man. So we need to do this beyond just putting people in the back seat. Take it to the children, show the example, bring them together with the parents, open up a conversation in church. The fact of it is that there are things women cannot speak or people are not talking just because we've not given them opportunity to voice out. When we give them opportunity to voice out, that will be, probably, let me put it this way, that's one of the challenges we have with having a mega assembly, where you have people in thousands, you don't even know where they come from, you don't know where what they do. But in such mega assembly, we're supposed to have units where there are representative groups oversee certain people, and they'll be able to check what is going on, how is their family lifestyle. But today, people are scrambling to have a full church where they will say, I'm one of the big pastors in town. And you don't even care what happens to the people's life. And they keep doing evil until something like this happens. Then everybody in the world will hear about it.
All right, thank you so much, Reverend Haya. But I just want to quickly put in one question. I want you to just answer me in a sentence. If a woman who has been battered, who is in an abusive relationship, comes to you as a pastor and complains about what the husband is doing to her, what would you advise her to do?
Well, it all depends on the history of the battering and how long they've been together, whether they start learning lessons of life. But so if it's an habitual person who has been battering his wife, if I'm a pastor, I would ask her to prayerfully consider whether she wants to remain alive and serve God or she wants to die and claim to be serving God.
All right, thank you so much, Reverend Joseph Hayab. We do appreciate your time and all the thoughts you have shared with Nigerians this morning. All right, Reverend Joseph Hayab is the CAN chairman in Kaduna State. Mercy, you have heard him. What he said that I actually could take out of all of that is that this conversation should be continuous, because this is like in the front burner. Like after 1 or 2 weeks now, people, tend to not talk about it anymore until other new issues come up. But he said it should be a continuous and ongoing process. Yes,
and the church needs to understand, but like he's rightly mentioned, so you have a thing of denomination and you have the fact that the scripture has been, interpreted in different... Misinterpreted, and people constantly give different interpretations to it. People would read the scripture independently of the previous verses that you have, and that has also constituted a problem. Whatever the Bible says is what it is. You don't need to look for a dictionary to interpret it. It's that simple. But for me, what is most worrying is the fact that what happens, how do people move from being very sweet to be very bitter, to a point where you're taking a machete and then you're trying to stab another person and kill them, and take joy in inflicting pains on the other partner. I'm just wondering, how did people just switch, from this side
how we lost our humanity? Well, that's the size of the show for today. Thank you so much for sitting by to watch us. And of course, you can actually contribute on our social media platforms. Mercy.
And that's it on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channels at PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. Many thanks for watching. I am Mercy Boko. Have a great day.
And I'm Justin Akadinyo. Stand by for the news coming up momentarily.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on PlusTvAfrica as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
How can we have peace without justice?
Plus Politics. It's not just another political conversation, it's about keeping you in the know. The relevant interviews, asking the tough questions to those that matter. Get the answers you need. Does it mean that the people who were injured, people who were shot at, those who were involved in that stampede are not going to get justice?
It is unfortunate, it is sad that we have a government of deaf and dumb.
Analysis from top experts.
The last election was not really an election.
We feel that Obasanjo has a very special place in his heart for hating Ijaw people.
I think it really boils down to two things. One, trust and accountability.
Plus Politics, every weeknight at 7 p.m. on Plus TV Africa.
Good morning, I am Justin Akadonia and you're watching the news brief on Plus TV Africa. Chrisland School has suspended other students involved in a videotaped sex escapade involving a 10-year-old female and male classmate during school games held in Dubai. The school, which has released an official statement in respect of the scandal, said the girl tagged as the major participant was the first to be suspended after playing the Truth or Dare game. The school also blamed the girl's parents for not cooperating with it during its investigation. Meanwhile, the Lagos state government has shut down all branches of Chrisland schools within the state, pending further investigations, warning members of the public to desist from distributing the footage of the said sex tape. The government has said that sharing such footage would amount to child pornography and could attract up to a 14-year jail term. Well, last night on our flagship news now, we were joined by family life practitioner Nikki Ajayi. This is what she had to say on the matter.
Okay, it's like you said, starting from the home front. For me, a 10-year-old child having such video it really calls for concern. If you were a teenager, if you were maybe an older teenager, you probably would say it's a child. But for a 10-year-old child to have that kind of situation at hand and the unfortunate video we have, something has really gone wrong fundamentally. And from the home front, there must be something that went wrong, either actively or passively. This is a threat of the social media. Whosoever is the handler from the home front, we have to go back there and find out what we did to this innocent child. Because at the point when this happened, where were the custodians at that point? To the point of her leaving a hotel room to the boys' hostel or the hotel of the boys, to where this whole act was committed. Where were those custodians, the teachers that went with them to Dubai? What was the communication amongst the students, among the pupils, I beg your pardon, that even the teachers did not even have an inkling? And to stem it at that point, what is very, very critical in the lives of our children is for us to have quality time with them, quality conversation with them. We keep saying also that availability is not ability. We have to be available for our children, and we also have to get the ability to instill the right values, virtues, and skills. However, as parents, you cannot shy away from the fact that you do not have the capacity. You may not have the capacity to instill all the value system. And that's why we have teachers, that's why we have mentors, that's why we have coaches.
In other news now, troops of the multinational Joint Task Force, MNJTF, has disclosed that it killed 10 Boko Haram commanders and 100 terrorists during land and air clearance operations along the fringes of the Lake Chad Basin. Areas cleared by the troops include Zanari and Arena Woje, which served as a major fabrication workshop for the terrorists. Other areas include Asaga, Larki, Gariri, Kagenoa, Woje, Arege, Abadam, Doron, Lelewa, Koloram, and several other locations around the islands. Now, 18 soldiers were reportedly wounded, while 3 others and a member of the CJTF paid the supreme price during the operation. The operation, codenamed Operation Lake Sanity, is a joint operation involving the MNJTF troops from Nigeria, Niger, and Cameroon, and troops from Operation Hardin K in Nigeria. Well, staying with security matters, troops of Featherfall Artillery Brigade Nigerian Army have neutralized a member of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra IPOB and its armed affiliate, the Eastern Security Network ESN, at Ihioma Community in Olu local government area of Imo State. Now, troops on routine patrol encountered members of the armed group who fired sporadically at Banana Junction to enforce the illegal seated home order on law-abiding citizens. In the firefight that ensued during the operation, one of the criminals was taken out while others fled in disarray. Now, troops are combing the general area in follow-up operations to track down the fleeing dissidents. The war of words between the All Progressives Congress APC and the People's Democratic Party PDP in Delta State have heightened after the Deputy Senate President Ovie Omoagege attacked Governor Ifeanyi Okowa's administration while declaring his governorship ambition. Now, Omoagege had accused Okowa and the PDP of having nothing on the ground in the state to show after being in power since 1999. However, the Delta State Commissioner for Information, Charles Aniago, responded to the accusations, describing the senator as a liar and a manipulator. Now, former representative of Rivers Southeast Senatorial District, Senator Magnus Abbey, has officially declared to run for the governorship seat in the 2023 elections in Rivers State under the All Progressives Congress APC. Abbey made the declaration during the inauguration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu Vanguard in Gokana local government area of Rivers State. He, however, said he would only support anyone who emerges APC governorship candidate in the state under a free, fair, and equitable contest, warning that anything short of that would be resisted.
Candidate that is known to our nation. We don't need an upland candidate that is known to anybody. What we need is a Rivers candidate that is known to the Rivers people, that has the capacity, that has the track record, that has the integrity to be able to deliver the kind of life that Rivers people expect. That I, Senator Magnus Abbey, I will contest for the gubernatorial ticket of the All Progressives Congress. I have not said, and I will not say, that Senator Abbey must be the candidate of the APC in Rivers State. Have I ever said so? No. I have always said, and I will repeat, if you have a fair, free, equitable contest, and somebody emerges from that process, I, Magnus Abbey, will support whoever emerges from such a process, and the person will win.
A cross-section of Nigerians who have exercised their civic responsibilities by voting during elections says though the process is usually stressful, it is worth the while as it gives a sense of fulfillment as citizens. In this report, our correspondent Jacinta Obuku x-rays ways of ending voter apathy.
One responsibility of citizens is voting. The law does not require citizens to vote, but voting is a very important part of any democracy. By voting, citizens are participating in the democratic process, but when not, they hand over political power to views they may oppose. While some say they are not confident in the election process in the country over the years, others believe it is their right to choose who governs them, irrespective of the cumbersome voting system.
It will make me feel fulfilled like a Nigerian because I voted for the person that I needed and they gave me the person. That was 2011. When Goodluck and Buhari, the first time. That was nice. I voted and I enjoyed that time because it was free and fair election.
Well, normally in this country, we just vote. We try our best to vote. So if you vote and it turns out negative, you try again another year.
I have voted before several times. I can't count it. So, and why we are voting is because if I'm voting for somebody, I'm voting because I want the person to lead us very well.
I'll still continue to vote because I believe one day everything will change for good. My perception concerning our election is that our vote doesn't count. So, but I felt if you continue saying that, we won't go anywhere. So I decided to go out and then cast my vote for who I voted for.
Political analyst Professor Sani Fege shared his voting experience, which he believes has been worthwhile. He spoke alongside Babatunde Olaoluwa, who is an executive member of the All Progressives Congress in Lagos State.
My first time of voting was in the Second Republic. That was 1979 when I was a graduate assistant. At that time, there wasn't much hassle in terms of voter registration. It was quite arranged, okay system. the process was smooth, and the people were elated. We were well educated in terms of what was expected of us as voters. The political parties campaigned vigorously to enlighten the electorate.
Our voting for the first time occurred in 1983 during the UPN days. And in those days, there was a sense of fulfillment. In fact, before the day came up, you will be yearning for it because it was a performing government. It was a government that had direction. And because it impacted positively on the people, particularly those of us who were younger ones, are still going through our education, then we wanted that government to continue in office.
Fegi and Babatunde share the same opinion. Nigerians must not trivialize their civic responsibility.
The fate of the country today and in the future is in their hands because democracy has given us the opportunity to shape how things will go in terms of politics and governance.
All of us put together need to talk to ourselves. The kind of orientation that is injected into the youth these days about voting is not encouraging. And I think something needs to be done to ensure that we have every individual of voting age to vote at every election so that the government put in place will be the government of the people.
Recently, the renowned clergy Pastor Enoch Adeboye charged his congregation to ensure they all participate in the next elections as it's their right.
Before you became a Christian, you are in Nigeria. You have a duty to your country to register, to vote, to make sure that your vote will count. You have a duty to belong to any party of your choice at the very grassroots. You can't sit down, fold your hands, refuse to vote, and then begin to complain about the government.
Perhaps this is a clarion call to all Nigerians, including human rights activists, the mass media, and even political parties to begin engaging the people in voter education. With many big names aspiring to lead, especially from Asuro, 2023 election may just be a game changer for eligible voters. Jacinta Obiuku, PlusTV News.
Nigeria has been in the grip of an intense heat wave over the past few months, as climate change experts say that there won't be a relief if necessary actions are not taken to tackle the ambience. The weather condition, which began in the month of February, has exposed many to a number of health risks, including heat stroke. Now, PlusTV News health correspondent Ngozika Ohechesi has more in this report.
The convener of the Funke Bada Foundation, Funke Bada, encouraged the market women not to lose hope in God as she shared some items ranging from clothes, noodles, seasoning.
In Nigeria, the dry season usually starts from the month of March to April every year. However, this year, there have been an extreme hot and humid weather nationwide, even in coastal areas such as Lagos. Hitting the streets, residents of Lagos complain about the unbearable heat.
Even if you have fans, nothing will work for your house. Except you use hand fan, they fan yourself, come outside. Sometimes we spend night for outside till daybreak because of the heat.
Both night and afternoon, morning, the weather is too high. Maybe this is the end of the life, so I don't know.
We are feeling the hot weather, but there is nothing we can do with it. Because NEPA no bring lights. So that is why we cannot sleep well in the night in the house.
We don't have choice because every pleasant day we buy petrol so that we can sleep better. Because if you can't see fan, the heat is too much. See on my neck like this for it scratches because we have to buy the petrol and we run it to the second day. So I'm not okay.
Medical and climate change experts warn against the dangers to human and natural resources. Dr. Tunyi Meba Wondu, a public health expert for over 3 decades, speaks about the major risk factors of heat and preventive measures to take during this period.
The purpose of sweating is to provide a cooling system, because once you sweat and the water evaporates, it cools your body. That is the purpose of the sweat. So now you have to sweat excessively. When you sweat excessively, you lose nutrients, you lose electrolytes, you lose water. So now, if water is not replaced, you become dehydrated. I mean, what it means is that the water in your body then falls down below certain level, which becomes a problem for the body. This can have effect on the cardiovascular system, the pumping of your heart. It has effect on the kidney function, and even your mood and emotion. And then, of course, with the heat, you are prone to rashes, okay? Because, the heat rash and infection thereof can be additional problem. So you also observe that people that experience it, they cannot actually do work as they ought to do it. They have labile mood. Their mood just swing anyhow. They get angry easily, and they are prone to rash decisions. So apart from the thing having effect on the body, it has effect on the productivity of the person and even the productivity of the country or the city as a whole. If you're not an outdoor worker, stay under shade, okay? Trees, houses, bus stops, that's where you can stay. Always take sufficient fluid, okay, along.
Philip Jabo is a climate change expert. He calls on the government to take action against gas emission, bush burning, car exhaustion, and other human activities that pollute the earth.
If we move away from those things, start looking at, like I said earlier, the mass transit, trains that will take people a long distance, like the government is doing, but we don't see too much commitment, like Lagos State is trying to do, but it's neither here nor there. If we have that nationally, so that I don't need to drive my car every morning or evening, and then I have to enter the train or the metro that will take not just me, but many other people. I think those little contributions added to, for instance, planting more trees, because in the city, Lagos is concrete jungle, just like Warri is, just like Port Harcourt is, just like Abuja is. Abuja is very beautiful, that's what everybody says, but Abuja, like Lagos, is a concrete jungle. There are no trees anywhere. These trees will assimilate as much as we put into the atmosphere and then cool the atmosphere. But, this is Lagos. That's Abuja, that's Warri, Kaduna, most parts of the country. You don't have the green cover that will, ameliorate what we are passing through. When you go out there in the sun, there's no shade. So you take all the dangerous rays coming from the sun and no protection.
According to the UN Climate Science Panel, the world needs to rapidly accelerate its transition away from coal and other fossil fuels to avoid extreme climate change. However, Nigeria has pledged to reduce its greenhouse gas emission by 20% by 2030, with the condition of 45% of international support. Ngozika, OHSC, Plus TV News.
And to other parts of the continent now. A week after the torrential rains began, the South African National Defence Force says it has been instructed to activate 10,000 troops for tasks including mop-up work and transporting aid. Outside the town of Umbulumbu, about 45 kilometers southwest of Durban, community members accompanied police officers and sniper dogs to scour a river for a missing lady who had been swept away. Now, according to local officials, she was coming home from work accompanied by her son when they both got washed away by floods. Now, Britain and Rwanda have continued to attempt to justify their highly controversial migration agreement against a tidal wave of criticism as the two countries announced a deal to send some people arriving in the UK as stowaways on trucks or in small boats to the East African country to have their asylum claims processed. The British Home Secretary Priti Patel and the Rwandan Minister of Foreign Affairs Vincent Biruta have written a joint article for the British newspaper The Times, arguing their case. In it, they said this groundbreaking partnership will set a new international standard and provide legal, safe, orderly and controlled ways for people to better their lives, flee oppression, persecution or conflict, and enjoy new opportunities. And outside of Africa, 2 British fighters captured in Ukraine by Russian forces have appeared on Russian state television and asked to be exchanged for a Ukrainian ally of President Vladimir Putin, Viktor Medvedchuk, who is being held by the Ukrainian authorities. It was unclear how freely the 2 men, Sean Peter and Aydin Aslin, were able to talk, but both spoke separately after being prompted by an unidentified man. Now, Medvedchuk was shown asking to be swapped too in a video released around the same time on Monday by Ukraine's SBU intelligence service via social media.
I think Boris needs to listen to what Oksana has said. I remember seeing in the news when Viktor Medvedchuk was arrested for his political affiliations. If Boris Johnson really does care, like he says he does, about British citizens, and he would help precious Zelensky to do the right thing and return Victor to his family and return us to our families.
Johnson, obviously I'm Sean Pinner. A lot's gone on over the last 5 or 6 weeks that I'm not fully aware of. Obviously I understand that Mr. Medvedchuk has been detained, and we look to exchange myself and Aydin Aslin for Mr. Medvedchuk. Obviously, I'd really appreciate your help in this matter and pushing this agenda.
The governors of the 36 states of the Federation have warned the federal government not to tamper with funds accruing to them and the 774 local government councils under the guise of satisfying an alleged $418 million London Paris Club loan refund-related judgment debts. Now, the states said they were not parties to any suit on the London Paris Club refund, and as such were not liable to any person or entity in any judgment debt being rallied on by the federal government. Speaking through the body of Attorneys General of the Federation, the states warned further that should the federal government proceed to make any such deduction, it would be acting illegally and in contempt of their appeal, challenging the judgment. In entertainment news now, the Portugal forward Cristiano Ronaldo and his partner Georgina Rodriguez had announced in October last year they were expecting twins. Sadly, one of the 2 babies has died. In a joint statement on social media, they said, "It is with deep sadness we have to announce that our baby boy passed away. It is the greatest pain that any parent can feel. Only the birth of our baby girl gives us the strength to leave this moment with some hope and happiness." End of quote. Asking for privacy during this difficult time, the couple thanked the doctors and nurses for their expert care and support. The 37-year-old Ronaldo, 5 times World Player of the Year, rejoined Manchester United last year after winning multiple trophies with Real Madrid and Juventus. In sports news now, head coach of Nigeria's under-20 boys, Flying Eagles, Ladan Bosso, has called up 40 players for next month's WAFU B Under-20 Championship taking place in Niamey, the capital of Niger Republic. Now, the list has 4 goalkeepers, 12 midfielders, 17 and 7 forwards. According to the team secretary Aliyu Ibrahim, invited players are to arrive in Abuja on Monday with their passport. 7-time African champions, the Flying Eagles will play in Group B of the WAFU B Championship alongside Ghana and Burkina Faso, with the tournament scheduled for the 7th to the 20th of May in Niamey. Host Niger Republic, Cote d'Ivoire, Togo and Benin Republic will contend in Group A. Only the 2 finalists will qualify from the WAFU B zone to participate in the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations. And sports news wraps it for us in the news brief. For more stories, please follow us on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel at PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. I am Justin Akadonye. Many thanks for watching and stand by for Plus Sports.
There is no voting on social media. To vote, you would require a permanent voter's card. To get your PVC, visit cvr.inecnigeria.org. Create your account with a valid email address and start the registration process. An activation link will be sent to you. Click on the link and activate your account. Fill out the form, pick and submit a convenient date and time for your biometrics. Print the application slip, which should have your QR code. On the appointed date, go to the nearest INEC office for your biometric capturing. Thereafter, you will get a registration slip to pick your permanent voter's card when ready. Get your PVC today. This message is from PlusTvAfrica.
Seize it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on PlusTvAfrica.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Hey, what's up, guys? You're welcome to another edition of Plus Event, and I remain your host, Ifeoluwa Oshukeye.
Your absence isn't an excuse anymore, as Plus Events is all you need, as we bring you the glitz, the glamour, and loads of fun.
Oh, definitely. By no question. He's a living legend.
Oh, God forbid, Holy Ghost fire, I know.
I just want to be blown away. I want to be wild. This is 11 years of doing it.
I'm surrounded by so much positivity. No, it's okay.
Yo, what's up, my people? It's your boy Starboy Terry. You're watching
Plus Event on Plus TV.
Stay glued to PlusTvAfrica every Saturday and Sunday, 4:30 p.m. West African time.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges. The growing youth population with little engagement, that is a ticking time bomb. We are a blessed people with diverse culture and highly cerebral minds who have a lot to say. And yes, we are talking. It is important we drive the right conversation that informs, inspires, influences thoughts and action. If we say there's beauty in our diversity, then let us embrace our diverse culture. We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation as we are the hope for the future. Yesterday's conversations shape today. What are you saying to shape your tomorrow? We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them.
If you no talk, they go beat you.
Now 2,500 they pay.
Tuesday, Plus Sports and Plus TV Africa. Welcome on the show. Now, too many things to discuss today, but the most important thing, Mukael, will be Liverpool take on Manchester United. And Manchester United can actually climb up the ladder, at least a bit. And tonight, if they can beat Liverpool, but they are playing at Anfield, Liverpool in the best of forms right now. And everybody has written off Manchester United. It's not going to happen. Liverpool will win this match.
Well, the last time they lost by such a huge margin, 5-0, it was under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. One could argue that the team did not have the kind of never die
bites that they should have. Yeah.
Yes, even though they haven't really maintained a consistency, they've not lost a lot of games under Ralph Rangnick. 4 games in the Premier League, more draws than losses. And under Ralph Rangnick, they've showed an ability to keep fighting, more so than they did under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So maybe we might see a typical Manchester United versus Liverpool performance from the Red Devils. They might just show that energy that we are typically seeing. We typically see from Manchester United, even when they are in a bad rut. Every time they go against the likes of Liverpool, against the likes of Chelsea, against the likes of Manchester City, we might see that.
Hopefully, AJ and Kay will put the hotline on the screen. And of course, it's Liverpool against Manchester United. And who would you give it to tonight? Okay. Now, the Super Eagles are set to discover their 2023 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers foes when the draw for the final rounds of the qualifications takes place in Johannesburg, South Africa, tonight. The West African football powerhouse, who crashed out of the 2022 AFCON in Cameroon in the round of 16 and recently missed out on featuring at the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, are seeded in Pot 1, along with the 12th highest ranked African countries from the latest FIFA rankings released on March 31st. A total of 48 countries, including host Cote d'Ivoire, are eligible to feature the final stage of the qualifiers scheduled to begin in June across the continent. Nigeria will avoid Senegal, Morocco, Egypt, Tunisia, Cameroon, Algeria, Mali, Cote d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso, Ghana, and DR Congo, as the other countries are also in Pot 1. They could, however, face the likes of South Africa, Zambia, or Cape Verde. In Pot 2, Togo, Zimbabwe, or Angola in Pot 3, Lesotho, Sudan, or the Central African Republic. The Eagles failed to qualify for the 2012, 2015, and 2017 AFCON tournaments. Now, Mikhail, this is sad. This is a very, very sad story for me this morning. Nigeria, those days, didn't ask you, who are we playing next? They didn't ask you who won the match. They used to ask how many goals did Nigeria score against the team. We're so sure we'll win. Now we are scared of meeting some people, Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, Zambia, Cameroon. Then we didn't used to fear any foe.
Well, those days are gone, and I think it's...
Unfortunately.
Maybe it might be unfortunate for older heads, but I think it's probably a good thing in this day and age, given that how leveled up football has gotten, how much better a lot of teams have gotten. Senegal are powerhouses in Africa right now. Morocco are very good. Egypt, even though they've lost out to Senegal in 2 very important matches, are still very dangerous. Nigeria needs to take their opponents seriously. They need to take whoever we face seriously and respect them. And we cannot live in those glory days anymore. It's the easiest way to get caught out and show your weaknesses. Nigeria needs to develop, and in that time, while we're developing, because every time teams go through cycles, a development stage needs to be had right now. That conversation needs to be at the top of our conversations for any prospective coaches that is going to take over. We need to be redeveloping our standards, increasing the quality of players we bring into the national team, and the demands on those players must be world class, because a lot of the players we're calling in are considered to be players